first item of business is the approval of the warrant. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, passes 5-0. The second item is the approval of the meeting minutes from
Second.
questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, passes 5-0. I have a statement to read, and then we will move on to public participation. I want to provide an update regarding the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. The school district has previously made all information open to the public, including prior surveys, resulting reports, and the external review of the 2025 Youth Risk Behavior Survey and the recommendations for changes to be implemented. All parents were notified on this webpage prior to the break where they could find this information. All school committee members have reviewed the report, and the school district is working with council on the creation and implementation of the policy recommendations. The superintendent is following up with district personnel matters, and these conversations are not public. As a reminder, there is a standing vote that no student surveys will be administered until the school committee adopts a new policy, which will likely include an opt-in process rather than an opt-out process. Even without this standing vote, the next student survey would be the school climate survey in December of 2025. The next scheduled youth risk behavior survey, if given at all, is not scheduled until the spring of 2027. The school district now needs time to thoughtfully develop a new policy with council that considers protecting students in 2025 while honoring parental rights. We are also committed to rethinking the wellness committee and possibly expanding or changing current membership. At the appropriate time, the school committee will have public discussion around the new proposed policy, and ultimately there will be a vote by the school committee at a public meeting on adopting the new policy. We are all committed to the safety and learning of all children where they feel represented and that they belong. This has been and will continue to be an important issue, and we appreciate the discussion and feedback from the public. There are also other very important issues facing the school committee at this time, and we do not plan on having the youth risk behavior surveys on the agenda moving forward until there is a proposed policy to be discussed. Thank you for your attention. All right. As a reminder, comments of anyone online or in the room.
Jason Brooks, Precinct 6 Town Meeting Member. Good evening. First, I want to thank you for the discussion at the last school meeting about the concussion protocols with the athletic trainer and athletic director present. As a former athlete, I can tell you that, and children that play contact sports, I can definitely appreciate the input on that. I'm assuming this was brought up because of the article on April 29th in the Boston Magazine. With that, for 2 months, people have been coming here trying to get answers on the survey. I understand tonight you guys weren't going to talk about it, but people are looking for the answers. People are looking for what happened. Throughout that report, it states that protocols were followed. What protocols? We haven't seen anything. There's nothing linked into it saying that these are the protocols for those. So, you know, in the interest of transparency, where is it? Nobody's really given us anything except to say, hey, here's the report, we messed up. Where were the failures? Who were the failures? Why are people not being brought when you can bring up an issue that didn't occur in our town, but based on an article, we can have a discussion on that lasted almost an hour, but we can't even discuss the survey or the opt-outs not working for over 3 months now, I think it is. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
May. So I've been coming to these meetings ever since April 1st because I care, and I've been waiting for the answer. I do understand that things take time, and even the two last meetings that I haven't heard any response. And then I can repeat my question. It's not that hard. What's the data for, and what's the purpose for it? And then at meeting that you guys were talking about whether use the national survey or the JSI version. We got to the JSI version that Dr. Conti cannot articulate, explain why. So if it's so hard to explain, so how can we trust that's the right choice for it? And Ms. Bond mentioned that the survey saved lives. I understand that we all care deeply about our children. That's why we are here. But let's be honest, by filling out a survey does not save life. Doctors, counselor, the real life support program will help kids, not the survey. Kids should enjoy their childhood. The school communities need to stop and think and ask, what is the better way to do it? And if the student needs help, we should bring in professionals to the school and talk to them and support them. But we shouldn't depend on the survey. I don't think that will work and fix the big problem. And about the opt-in and opt-out process, it seems like you guys are more focused on how many students are taking the survey, but why? Circle back what my original question was. Why? What's all the data really for, and what's the purpose for it? As a parent, I think I have been really patient to waiting for the survey policy, but the last two meetings that I was here, I didn't hear. I was disappointed that it was rushed and sloppy. If the survey is truly good and safe for the kids, why as a parent we can't see it first, and why do we have to decide opt-in or opt-out without knowing what's in it? So let me ask you that: would you buy a house without seeing the house and knowing anything about it? Would you accept a position of a job without knowing what is the job about? Of course not. So why would you ask as a parent to make such a decision to will affect our kids without giving us full information? And to Ms. Monaco, this is not the first time that you defend Dr. Conti. We all understand the meaning to show respect. But respect, you have to be earned for respect. If someone does not earn it, so I don't know why you get so upset about not calling him doctor. And can you please let me know what Dr. Conti has done, benefit to the Burlington Public School? Thank you.
Jim Hannafin. I have 9 kids gone through the system and some grandkids in the pipeline. But my brother David, who can't be here tonight, unfortunately, because he'd do a much better job of relaying this than me. But after the last meeting, he asked me a question. He said, why is it that the committee finds it important to bring what I'm assuming is the entire Burlington school system athletic training staff to address an issue that happened in another community? Those 3 employees explained their training, their policies, their procedures, and answered questions from a number of the school board members. We have a situation in Burlington that has created national news and caused a number of other school boards to call their personnel to ensure what happened here doesn't happen there. Yet no one from the Wellness Committee has been brought before this board to answer any questions. It seems to indicate how insincere you are about what happened with that survey. That's it.
Good evening, Bob Young, town meeting member, precinct 3. What I want to talk about tonight is different than what others have spoken about, which is also important. It's about having access to the school administration. It should be very, very, very easy to get a hold of people. The other day I tried to call, and I got bounced around so badly. It was unbelievable. It was mid-morning. I'm being, this administrator, that administrative assistant, that administrative assistant. It was ridiculous. It should be very easy. What I noticed on the website, it's not consistent. There should be email contact and a direct phone number for the administrative people. Some people want to have a phone conversation. Sometimes it can't be done by email. We should have that right. On the website right now, if you pulled it up, you'd see a picture of Dr. Conti, Dr. Chan, and some of the mental health person, but unfortunately at the moment, Mr. Kuna's picture's not there, as well as the business person, Mr. Cole Corsia. They've been here a long enough time. That should be there. It should be consistent. I will say that I've had an ability to reach Dr. Conti pretty well. I will say that, and certainly Bob, and they've been responsive. But I had some help the other day from Ms. Masato. It was an email issue with the business manager, and sitting waiting to come up here and speak, I remembered just a point. I did leave a voicemail for her, and I didn't get a call back that I know of. But I appreciate your help that you gave me, and I'm now in touch with her. But we should have very, very easy access and direct ability to reach these people, not through administrative people. That's what it seems to me in many of these cases. You got to leave a message with the administrative person and then hope that you're going to get a call back. Direct access should be a matter of course. I hope you'll take this and make the adjustments that are necessary. And, the positive things that I mentioned are certainly appreciated, but it can be a lot better. Thank you for your time.
Hands online? No? Sir?
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's staying cool. Thank you for having me today. I just had a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. I wanted to firstly thank Mr. Brooks. I read the review. It was the only committee member that had mentioned the MCAS scores, and I really do want, for all of us to be focusing on academics. I think it's extremely important for us to be focusing on academics. I feel like we're spending a lot of time on things that are non-academic. It would be lovely if we could be, putting the money that the school is spending. We have a very large spending per pupil here in Burlington, which is great, but it should be directed towards academics. I'd also like to see, things to be a little bit different in the school in terms of a pull system where the kids can feel comfortable going to any school teacher, administrator, counselor, anyone for any problem that they might have. Whereas this, supposedly anonymous survey might be able to save people. I don't understand how it can save an individual if it's really anonymous. Is it anonymous, or can we use it to save people? The other thing that I had was spending on apps and systems. I learned the other day that there's an app that the kids need to use to go to the bathroom. I was actually really quite shocked at that. There was another, in one of the school committee meetings, there was talk about the opt-in or opt-out system and making yet another app or another system for opting in or opting out. And I just want us to get back to basics. I feel like, having the kids go to the bathroom or, being able as a school system to manage opt-in and opt-out, it shouldn't be this complicated. It should just be back to basics and responsibility. Thank you for your time.
All right, my name is William Manka, and the issues I want to focus on is accountability, academics, and trust, which there has been none of in this school system. With academics, it's no surprise to anyone here that the academics are not highly valued. The only person in the school committee who mentioned academics in their reports was Mr. Brooks, and I commend you on that. With trust, none of the students, none of the parents have really ever trusted the administration in my experience, and it has not been worked on through the time that I or anyone else has been in the school system. And with accountability, this survey has been out, or it was released about 3 months ago, and yet there has been no apology, no accountability. There has been no one who has taken the blame for this. There should be someone who is responsible for this, and nobody is taking that, and I think that that's very wrong. And then also, something someone said in the opening of this is that we care about student safety, which I find really interesting because there were two instances in the same school year, this school year, that happened where a child either threatened an act of violence or brought in a weapon into school and got 3 and 5 day suspension respectively. That does not promote the safety of the children, and it just is terrible how we think that implementing a sex survey to 11-year-old girls is a better way of solving safety than actually taking responsibility for the actual physical safety of our students. Thank you.
Adrienne Simeone. When the whole issue with the survey first blew up, there was a statement read for consecutive meetings that the administration was committed to transparency and accountability. You valued your collaboration with families, that changes were going to happen moving forward. You told us to let the review happen and that additional public discussion would happen at a later time. And then as soon as the report was available, it was like radio silence. That statement didn't continue and nothing was ever said. And it's been 6 weeks and like so many emails, me meeting with town meeting members and emailing people and being like, why is it so hard for this report to be announced as being available? I know you said that you created the webpage and all the stuff's on there. No one's going to that webpage to continuously look for updates about this issue. No one's listening to the school committee meeting en masse to make sure they go, oh, well, they made an announcement. Let me go check that webpage that I probably can't even find the link to. So my only simple question was to please make an announcement through Parrott Square that the report is available so people can read it. I think they have that right. I can't do it myself. I don't have everybody's contact information. You do. You want to be transparent. You guys want to be holding people accountable. Then you need to do the right thing. It's kind of mind-blowing to me that I have to be a thorn in your side about making a simple announcement that this report, which is public information, was available. Because then when you read in the report, I think it's kind of clear why you don't want people to know about the report. Because it wasn't JSI's failure that led to this problem. JSI actually did their job. They sent an email to Concession and Dowdy outlining that they had made changes, telling them what the changes were made. A whole multiple documents outlining exactly what they did and why. And nothing happened with that email. What happened? Did they not read it? Did they just look it over and not spend any time? They are the reason why our kids were exposed to these questions, not JSI. So to say, like, we released JSI, that's a scapegoat. JSI actually did their job. This is an internal issue, and so that's why I'm ticked. Because I don't see accountability and I absolutely don't see transparency. I want the report communicated to parents through Parent Square. That's all I want. I want the transparency, the collaboration with families, the accountability that you guys tell us that you're gonna swear by.
Comment?
My name's Jamie Weber. I've been up here many a times. So I had the pleasure of requesting all of Dr. Conti's reviews, because I understand tonight we're going to review his just performance in our district, and I was quite surprised. Christine Monaco, you gave him exemplary comments and reviews, stellar, actually, which is kind of a little bit disturbing, considering the debacles that we have had throughout this district. Dr. Conti continues to work hard to make instructional leadership cutting edge. What about his leadership with the YRBS? Where was his leadership when he had 2 directors fail to read emails and review the content that JSI set forward and said we made these changes before they released it to the district? We talk about Parent Square. Dr. Conti is an outstanding superintendent. His dedication to his responsibility is second to none. What is second to none about not overseeing subordinates? We had 2 directors fail to do their job. There was no active accountability. There was no corrective measures taken. There was no disciplinary action taken. And we talk about all this importance of mental health care and collaborative care. He has introduced a new pilot program, the Burlington Collaborative Care Model. The concepts allows a mental health provider to be proactive in the school department with the ability to get involved and advocate for students, but the bills go directly to the insurance company. This model allows students to get the care they need when they need it and not having to wait several months for a mental health appointment. Well, what about all the kids that now have mental health issues due to the YRBS? To see that content at 10 and 11 years old. What about those children? There's been no empathy towards the children that have been vastly affected by the epic failures across this administration. This wasn't just one simple, like, oops, let's get over it. This was multiple failures of individuals, including all of you, which some of you did not vet the questions. It's like infuriating to go through these reviews and see how biased they are. Not one, Jeremy, actually, Melissa, you actually surprised me. I was actually pretty surprised, and I was shocked to even say I was pleasantly surprised with some of the feedback that you gave. Didn't think you gave him a stellar review, but there's no needs improvement. There's no sentences that describe where Dr. Conti should be making growths in the areas of growth, despite the long history. I've emailed town meeting members. I emailed you a timeline of all the issues that have come under contact with Dr. Conti. And I started this, I told you when my daughter started the middle school, this was all this agendas and all these things that push, and everything was taken out of the Marshall Simons Middle School when my daughter was there. You guys removed the Scholars Brunch, activity blocks, beams. Every time I went to Carrie Pierce, she had said it was the administration. When I went to you, you said, it's constant, it's not me, it's them, it's not me, it's them. Somebody's doing it behind the scenes. These performance evaluations are very biased.
Thank you.
You guys need to do better as a school committee. This community elected you and put trust in you, and we have none. It's actually disgraceful that you can sit up there and call yourself school. Lead with integrity. Do better.
Point of information. Is there going to be public comment along with the review
No.
also?
No.
So
This is our public comment period.
There's not. We're not going to follow the typical protocol tonight that we usually do, that we speak during the
Correct.
topic.
Correct.
Right. That's why they didn't ask parent input on Dr. Conti's
You
review.
I will say you're kind of changing the game on us. So I guess I'll
Come
speak
on
now.
up.
Ooh. Got my notes on my phone. Adam Sinesi is my name. I live in Precinct 1. So for me, this is a lot bigger than just a survey. This is about a pattern of things that just seem to pop up every so often in the district. And I read the performance reviews, like a lot of people here, and I did find them a little bit head scratching, based on the criteria set forward in the review. Can someone clarify for 1 second? Those reviews, that's a standard form provided by the state, correct? Now, it's worth noting that essentially there's a cover sheet, and the superintendent's graded in 4 different categories. Those categories are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, which I think is a little strained, and professional culture, which you could argue is also strained. I do want to pause for 1 second. Personally, our family had a good year in the school. I didn't let the survey ruin the year for me. But again, I think that as we discuss a review and a performance review, it's an opportunity to show areas for growth. And I think we've really historically missed some opportunities. And again, I read some quotes. So, as the state defines an exemplary rating, defined in the document, exemplary equals a rating of exemplary indicates that practice significantly exceeds proficient and could serve as a model of practice regionally or statewide. If that's the case, and people are grading things with exemplary, they need to back it up with areas that we piloted something for the state. Instead, I saw Dr. Conti is kind, smart, and well-liked. We know those things. But those are platitudes. A review is an opportunity for anyone that's ever sat through a professional review to give constructive feedback and areas for improvement. I'm reading this review, and one of the things in the review, one of the comments says, the elementary and middle schools are jam-packed with necessary topics.
No reading curriculum.
That was a serious comment in a performance review. Another one says, our finances and budgets are excellent. What does that even mean? What is an excellent budget? Is that a budget that is larger this year? Is it a budget that's smaller next year? What's an excellent budget? Does anyone want to answer that? It's just when I read these reviews, it doesn't seem like you're taking this very seriously. So tonight, I'm reviewing you, and I'm giving you all a needs improvement.
Anyone online? All right, we will move on to subcommittee reports. I don't think I have anything. Do you have?
No, the only thing for the Marshall Simons Field update is, excuse me, we'll be before conservation again to show the new footprint. Once we get some positive feedback, we'll move with placing features. Timeline basically goes, we'll be before them the end of this week, I believe. We'll meet July 10th. After that, we're going to do 2 iterations of feedback on the plans presented, and then move something forward probably in the September timeframe, September-October timeframe to the school committee for vote.
Okay. Questions? Do we have anything from Ways and Means?
Hi, Ways and Means has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Any other announcements? No? All right, moving right along. We have 2 out-of-state travel. They're both in the backup. Dr. Trani, do you want to present them, or should we just have someone read through?
No, we are asking for one of our computer science teachers, Jerry Fatal, to attend an out-of-state training for the AP College Board. Again, it's recommended that school committee approve out-of-state travel for Jerry Fatal to attend the AP Career Kickstart Summer Institute in Indianapolis. So we often have to get our teachers trained in their advanced placement courses approved.
Second.
Questions? This is the new AP class, right? The cyber
Yes.
security AP.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Passes 5-0. And there's a second out-of-state travel.
Yeah, there's a National School Safety Conference in Nevada, and we have a safety team that involves Ms. Clark, Ms. Concession, and Laura Angelo, and they work very closely with the Burlington Police and our school resource officers, and this is an opportunity for them to see and learn about the latest in school safety. Again, it was recommended by the safety group, which includes our school resource officers. So I'm recommending the school committee approve the request for out-of-state travel for our safety team to the National School Safety Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st.
So moved.
Any question? Oh, did I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. It's 5-0.
Thank you.
Back to Dr. Chin.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yep.
I'm gonna move on up front.
Okay.
If you don't mind. And Mr. Kuhn, I also sent you something on an Excel spreadsheet. If you wouldn't mind just downloading that just recently. That'll be the second piece of my presentation, so I apologize for that. It was last minute to you, sir. That will be the second piece of it, please. I was trying to put it on the... Yeah, the first we'll start with PowerPoint. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you again. Wanted to go over, because one of the things that we've been trying to do is just to see the growth always of our students and also their academic achievement. And one of the ways that we measure the growth is through various assessments. And one of them that we've used is iReady, and I wanted to go over with you some key slides of where our students are in math and also in literacy. Next, please. And so I just wanted to go over this really a quick key, and all these documents are going to be posted, and everything has been transparent when it comes to the reading and math and where we are. When it is a darker green, that's mid or above grade level, a light green early on grade level, yellow 1 grade level below, and the pink or the darker pink is 2 grades below and 3 or more grades level below. And that is, iReady is an instrument that is both norm referenced and criterion referenced. Norm reference allows you to measure how your students are doing across the United States and in the state of Massachusetts. And then criterion reference is based on categories. Next, please. So we're going to be talking about our math performance review. So one of the things that I always look at when it comes to where we are, so in kindergarten, where we place, I'm just going to give you an example, 67% of our students, for instance, are mid or above grade level. That's in kindergarten at the end. And when you compare that nationally to 1.1 million students who take that, who score above a 48% in green, that's how you make the comparison to see if we're heading in the right trend. And I can say that in math, in K1 and 2, I'm just reading you the first bar, but this is how you would read the bars all along the way. One gives you the national, which is the national comparison of 1.1 million students, and the other is the comparison of how we stand in the state of Massachusetts given to 18,000 students. So again, kindergarten, at the end of the year, we have 67% of our students on mid or above grade level, 18% early on grade level, and then 1 grade level below. But this tends to fluctuate, so this is where we ended up at the end of the year. Next, please. Again, this is with grade 5. I'm going to read the grade 5 in comparison. In this district, 47% are mid or above grade level compared to the national statistics of 1.3 million students, in which 29% are scoring mid or above grade level. Next slide, please. We go on to 8th grade. 38% of our students, out of 278 students who took this, are mid or above grade level, 22% early on grade level. You compare that nationally, in which it's 19% and 16%, and then in accordance to the state of Massachusetts, 23% to 17%. So this is one way that you measure. You can also measure this when it comes to our SAT report that will come sometime in late September, early October, in which you guys will get that report, and also our AP and how we stand. Again, those reports are not going to be ready until September or October, but iReady is available, and it gives us a prediction of what tells us where our students are compared to that nationally, and also to the students who took this in the state of Massachusetts. Next. Another way to take a look at this is always to take a look at where our students grew from fall, because our students will take this 3 times a year. So here in math, this is 1st to 5th grade students, but we also increased it to 6, 7, and 8, and this year 9th and 10th also took it as well too. And so you're always looking for a trend of students who are growing, and it shows that our students are growing. And then towards the end, when you're in the bottom layer, there's 268 students in grade 1 who are assessed, 257 students in grade 2 assessed. I'm just giving you an overall overview of how to read this report. Again, when you go into the next slide, when it goes into, is that 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, sir? All right, thank you. What you will see here is that our students are still continuing to grow. Now, one of the areas that we did take a look at, and we took a look at 9th and 10th grade, is we wanted to know, because I had the opportunity to talk to some students who were in the high school, and one of the things that they wanted to have a little bit more clarification is, because they often get a lot of assessments, is what was really the purpose of iReady? Why did they take it? Because they feel like they have a lot of assessments that they take. And one of the things that we talked about with the instructional district leadership coach there is we just need to make it a little bit more clear to students that this iReady assessment is helpful for them, especially in setting goals. All right, next, please. And then this gives you the distribution because we've had this assessment for quite a while in the middle school. It's been an assessment that's been established in the middle school. We started it our first year, just this last year, for grades 1 through 5 in math, and then 9 and 10 piloted it this year. But again, this is one way that you can begin to see where we are. Now, one of the things that we need to take a look at is we kind of remain static, and we want to continue to grow. So this doesn't compare apples to apples, like meaning that, so in 22-23, that is our 6th grade students. In 23-24, that's 43% of who are scoring mid or above grade level, and then here 37%. So one of the things that you can also use this particular graph when you go into deeper is for us to take a look at a curriculum. So, and we are revising our curriculum in the middle school for the following year. Next, please. All right. What this does is, what I really like to see at the same time too, and this is very important, is that this takes a look at all the students who are at mid or above grade level. So when you start breaking down the categories, what it says is that out of 268 students who are assessed in 1st grade, 12% were on mid or above grade level in fall. And then when they took it in spring, in that category, 54%, they grew. 54% of 268 students in numbers and operations were in the mid or above grade level. When it means mid or above grade level, it means that these students are ending up above grade level. And it breaks it down into the 4 categories, into algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry. And what this assessment also does, it also then compares it to how we're doing nationally, based on national norms. So when it is a deep blue, for instance, it means that we are scoring more than how other students nationally are scoring from fall to spring. That's what it means. Gray means that it's scoring less than. So one of the areas that we're going to want to take a look at for our mid and above grade level is to take a look at our measurement and data, just to check out what's going on in our measurement and data in our curriculum in grade 8. This is how you would read this data. All right, next slide, please. And again, in this particular slide, this measures, for instance, the prior to the current years. And again, one of the areas that we're taking a look at is that we're revising the middle school math curriculum to making it more challenging. And again, this captures what happened in last year to where we are this year. Again, these are different groups of students. So one of the areas that you can start digging deeper into are not only the categories, but taking a look at the curriculum. Next, please. Now, I particularly like this particular slide because what it does is it outlines in every district that you go to, in any district, you always want to be high performing and high growth. You want your kids who are high performing continuing to make high growth. And as we can see in grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, the median, which is at the 50 percentile. So if I were to take a look at, let me use that dot, grade 8. What it means is that they are performing 50% of the students in the medium. More of them are performing more than 70, and then 50% is less than 70, and then 50% is making a high growth, a growth of about 130. So again, overall, our students in grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 and 8 are making high performance and high growth.
Lisa, can we just stop on this one for a second?
Yes.
Just because that top right box is sort of the goal, and that reflects a significant amount of effort. So I don't want to go past it quickly. There are many districts that are high performing, but may not have the same level of growth. So your student population matters and where your student, where your learner is starting from. So a lot of people want to look at absolute sort of test performance, and again, that's one measure, and that's a way to compare different places, but we are more interested in growth because we're a public school district, we accept everybody, and so we want to really focus on that top right quadrant of high performance and high growth. If we just saw high performance, but we weren't challenging our kids, then we would see lower growth. So that just reflects a significant accomplishment in our classrooms, is that top right box.
And I apologize, Dr. Conti, for
don't
going
apologize.
too
It was
quickly.
great.
The next slide, please. This is one of the things that I also, and when you look at the iReady report, one of the reports that will show with you is students who make the typical growth. Typical growth means growth in 1 year, right? Those students who meet the stretch growth means that they met growth more than 1 year. More than 1 year. And you always start off with where you are. So if I were to take a look at this, 269 students in grade 1 took this as assessment. 34% of them met the stretch growth. So they met the stretch growth. Now what that means, next slide, what that means is that, so if you were to take, like for instance, 34%, 0.34 times 269, you would get 92 students. Out of these 92 students, you're focusing on them where they were in fall and then in spring. Look at their growth. You're growing from the 85% that's in yellow, that's one grade level below. You see the growth. Now they've become green. And that is the direction that you always want to go in for kids. You always want to go in that direction for kids, and then you want to make the red sections or the pink sections smaller and smaller and smaller.
And again, I'm sorry, one more thing, but we spent a lot of time with this, is the assessment isn't the same. So the beginning of year assessment isn't the same as the mid-year assessment, isn't the same as the end of year assessment. So the students aren't taking the same assessment 3 times and showing growth. As the standards change, the expectation of the assessment changes. So the end of year assessment reflects what they should have learned for that year. I hope I explained that well. It's not the same assessment 3 times. It's a beginning of year expectation, where they should be after
Middle of the year,
receiving teaching,
and then where they should be at the
receive
end of the
So
year.
it's 3 different assessments.
My question is, I assume all students don't have stretch goals, right?
No, all students, in that report that you get from iReady,
Yeah.
right? In the first report, which is the diagnostic,
Envision it.
it will show you, for instance, on the second page, and I can go over it more individually, I just don't have the report in front of me. It will show that, it shows a nice little graph bar, it's like a bar thing, and it'll show you that this is where your child is going to be when it's going to be a regular typical growth. This is where your child can be if it is the stretch growth. So every child, it doesn't mean that every child meets it, but they give you the indicators of where your child is, of whether or not they've met 1 year's amount of growth or they've met more than 1 year's amount of growth.
And this is why it's a much better tool for us, never mind the timeliness, but it's a much better tool than us for MCAS, because if a child comes to us in grade 3 and they're a grade level behind, and they only make a year's worth of progress, then they're going to remain behind as they move through. So we can sort of set stretch goals, because they need to make more than a year's worth of growth in a year's worth of time if they're ever going to catch up. So that child could have a really successful year and still perform poorly on MCAS just because they're not getting to that standard. But we would say, if that child
You're
is hitting
progressing over time.
their growth goals, then we'll catch them up eventually. So I think that's really the importance of the stretch goals, is there are many students who, in order to be at grade level, need to learn or make more than a year's progress in a year's worth of time. We're showing you global data, and then Dr. Chen goes through this. We can get as granular as you can imagine. So we can get down to individual students. We can group the students into different performing
Categories.
groups and
So-
different categories.
So what I'm trying to get at is, obviously, some students are at grade level and some are below grade level. So the below grade level students would have their regular learning plus that stretch goal, and then an at grade level student would just have regular learning.
No,
I
everyone
understand that they
has,
have a stretch goal.
every single student has. It doesn't matter where you begin.
Okay.
Every single student has a typical growth and then a stretch growth.
Okay.
And that's how, in this quadrant, when you take a look back at this quadrant, which is important, which is 2 slides back, right? You could be, it makes a difference. You could already be high performing, but low growth. That means you started out, right? But you didn't grow.
I'm with you.
You didn't grow because you didn't achieve what you should have achieved because of where you started. So every child has that. So one of the things that we're working more towards as we're going through this data is that we need to be focusing on every child's, not just their typical growth, but their stretch growth. Because that's our goal. Not the typical growth, the stretch growth. And so it's very important to disaggregate this and look at it. But what Dr. Conti, what I'm telling you is I'm giving you more of a global picture, right? And then my team and I will take it, and then we go into it very granular, and then we take a look at where it is, what's going on in our curriculum.
I'm not going to be taking questions from the audience.
What about the kids below grade level, and what about comparing it district to district?
So through the chair, Dr. Chen, would you say that stretch growth is similar to ambitious growth or well above average growth that we
It is
see
well above average
described
growth.
in the Dibbles?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So
Yes.
that really is the greatest indicator of student success.
Yes.
and teachers' success.
Yes.
And it's teaching our students and, the curriculum itself, too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And through the chair, in response to that question, that was on the first one or two slides in which we compared it nationally norm of 1.2 million people and to the state. And so these scores are being compared through the state of Massachusetts and nationwide with 1.2 million students. Is on the first 2 or 3 slides in the beginning. All right, so moving on. With 6, 7, and 8, it's really great. You begin to see where these students are. So these are the students, again, who have met the stretch growth, right? Because one of the things that we always want to make sure is that we're looking at every single student. Because one of the things I've heard is sometimes when we're trying to catch up students, we also forget those students who are very high to begin with, right? So we want to continue to push those students further. So you're always wanting to, the name of the game is you're always wanting to expand this number that's below when it comes to like 103, 101, 82. And you're always wanting to make that shift. You're always wanting to make that green bar even darker green. And we've achieved that. We're not perfect, right? It would be wonderful if all of this were in dark green, but this is where we want to head. All right, next please. Now we're going to talk about reading. In reading, this is where in reading, we have 4, thank you. One of the things that you can, again, compare to as one of the first slides that we begin with is that in first and second grade, again, you take a look at this. The national, because a question was posed, where do we fall nationally and where do we fall as a state? It's the same thing that we did in the first 2 slides when it came to math. So 60% of our students, which is in first grade, 281, are mid or above grade level. This is compared to the 44% of students, which is 988 students, taking this nationwide. So we are above in Burlington when it comes to that green bar. The same thing is when it comes to in the state of Massachusetts. So this is why I really like this particular assessment, because you can look at it at a granular level, and then you can compare, well, how do our students do nationwide? And then how do our students do in the state of Massachusetts? Now, this is a global picture, but it's also an important picture to paint so that you know if you're growing or you're not, compared to the people who are surrounding with you and compared to people in the nation. Next slide, please. This goes on with what's going on in grades 3, 4, and 5. The next slide compares to where we are in grades 6, 7, and 8. All right, so what does this mean when we take a look at, again, when we take a look at the distribution? Because we've had this particular assessment in reading much longer than we've had in math. Math, again, last year was the first year that we did it in grades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 9 and 10. We've been doing this for a while in reading.
Lisa, can I just, again, the first year we used iReady for both. We've been screening in math universally using just a different screener called Symphony. So it's not like we haven't been looking at our elementary school in math universally. We have. We just now are using the same screener, and both feel like the iReady math has improved. They were really focused on literacy when they first came out, and it's easier for us to do the analysis using the same tool and the same screener, so we don't have to show you different graphics for both. So when Lisa's commenting that the iReady math is new, that is absolutely true, but we've been screening the kids for probably 15 years using other tools.
But what we wanted, and Dr. Conti, thank you for that clarification, what we wanted was, we wanted a screener that, because we had taken a look at different screeners, right? And we wanted a screener that had very close reference when it comes to like a performance of how students do, for instance, on how they do, for instance, when it comes to their MCAS scores. And this is a very, very close, it's very, very close correlation. And then it became harder when we have 6, 7, and 8, and you're taking things in iReady, and then like what Dr. Conti says, you have something in Symphony instead. So we really wanted to keep everything consistent so that we could see how kids were growing from 1 to year 10. All right, so again, this is the same way to read this particular report. The next slide, how do we compare from spring to spring? Again, one of the areas that we always take a look at, that I want to take a look at, is if we're remaining kind of consistent and steady, then what's going on with our curriculum? And I know one of the areas that we're also taking a look at when it comes to middle school, and I want to thank Dr. Nichols on this, is that next year they're already starting to look at certain pilots. And so we're going to be taking a look at choosing one particular core curriculum for grades 6, 7, and 8 to be implemented in year 26 and 27. All right, next, please. And again, this is where we fall when it comes to fall and to spring. So this does a comparison of where we are, and it shows that we're making greater growth in the kids, because kids should be growing. Kids should be growing from when you start at the beginning of the school year towards the end of the school year, and we're making that growth. All right. Next slide, please. And again, this was, we did this one from fall to spring as opposed to spring to spring. And this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about, because one of the things that we're trying to figure out is how many assessments are too many assessments for kids. And in the elementary school, they took it 3 times. But when it came to at least for literacy, we were thinking about, the reason it's not spring to spring, but rather fall to spring, is because we were thinking about that maybe at some point in time we may want to increase the number of times that the students are given the assessment. All right. Next, please. And again, this is taking a look at your mid or above grade level. And so the things that are grayed out means that there's no national comparison is not available. So what it shows is that, I'll give you an example. We started out in fall, so I'm in grade 1, 25% of our students scored mid or above grade level. By the end of spring, 69%. And so when it is in blue, what it means is that we increased more than how other folks did nationwide. So one of the areas that we're going to want to take a look at is what's going on with our high frequency words in 2nd grade. Another area that we may want to take a look at in 8th grade is also informational text. It doesn't mean that we didn't grow. We did grow in the number of students who achieved the middle or above grade level, but it's always nice to increase more than the national average. So these are areas that we're going to take a look at. All right, next slide, please. This gives you how we've performed when it comes to the prior year, again, when I'm talking about the spring to spring. So you can compare one year to another year, one year to another year. Now, again, these are not the same group of students, but this is a way for us to take a look at our particular curriculum. And one of the things that we are doing is we're going to be adopting a new curriculum. So we're hoping also to move the needle a little bit more in the adoption of our new curriculum. Next, please. And again, as Dr. Conti says, this is an important slide for us to see. We always, in any district that you are in, you always want to be high performance and high growth. So you take a look at, for instance, in 6th and 7th grade, they did make some high achievement, both high performance and high growth. Now, 8th grade is an area that we maybe want to take a look at, and we're going to go a little bit deeper, because even though we made high performance and high growth, the question becomes, why didn't we make the growth more like we did in grades 6 and 7? Did kids start at a much lower level? Did the average kid start at so these are questions that we're going to continue to dig deeper into, but it's a nice visual for at least one to have to see where our kids ended up.
Again, district-to-district comparisons are challenging because the student populations are different in every single district. So really what you want to see is, it would be interesting to look at this chart, district to district, not individual students, but it would see, again, what is high growth, high performance in if people are sort of thinking about that. But again, that top right box is where you want to be. We're talking about lots of visual data, but there's a lot of teaching and learning and hard work by educators that support the data that you're seeing. And again, why this is better for us than MCAS is we don't get the MCAS results until October. They're getting better about that, but it's really not an instructional tool for us. So having this data available really 3 times a year allows us to make adjustments. We've been able to track student grades that were impacted by being out of school during COVID. So we saw some performance dip that, again, we needed to see those stretch goals because those kids had to make up some time. But what I was really pleased at, and what I was sort of talking to principals about, is, again, you really want to have that top right box is where you want your students to be seen. So.
You always, like Dr. Conti says, you always want to be on the right, but you don't want to be in you don't want to be the right below. Because it's one thing to have high achieving students to begin with, but if we're not making growth, that means that we're not helping them grow. All right, in the next slide, in this particular slide, again, these are the kids who met typical or stretch growth. And as you can see in first grade, I'm going to just use that as an example, 42% of our students in first grade in reading met the stretch growth. So again, if you were to do 0.42 times 272, what you would come up with is 113 students. So when you take a look at those first graders and 113 of them, and you see where they began in first grade and where they ended up, that is amazing. The first grade teachers, kudos to all of them. They're killing it. Look at that. None of the kids, there's a little bit of yellow, maybe that's like a 1%, but none of the kids are in red here. They're killing it. And so that's very, very exciting. That's very exciting. So kudos to our grade 1 teachers. A big shout out to all of you in all 4 elementary schools. All right, next slide, please. And again, this is the same thing for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This is how you would read this particular score. All right, so what does this mean when it comes to next steps? All right, what does it mean when it comes to next steps? Oftentimes, everyone wishes that, I think sometimes the curriculum office would move a little bit faster, but I will say that in my years of experience that we're moving at a speed that I think is doable for our teachers, and that we're making progress in the places that we need to make. And so what's going to be going on for next year is that we're going to continue with our curriculum work of the UBD task force. This means that we're going to be continuing to identify all of our power standards. So we will have very consistent vertical alignment when it comes to math. I think that's going to be very important. And one of the products that I'm charging this task force to be a part of is we're going to come up with documents that are curriculum documents that are very, very transparent, that I really want to put on the website so that parents and teachers and students will be able to see within each of the 4 quarters or trimesters, or even between semester 1 and semester 2, what are all the power standards that students are learning, and what is the pace that we're going about them. We're also going to be doing a lot of work with the MTSS task force and putting together a lot of the policies, procedures, so that we're going to be more consistent K through 12.
Lisa, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt again. MTSS is the multi-tiered
systems of support.
Systems of support. That's kind of the RTI model, and so the triangle in your head is always sort of 18, 15, 5. 80, 15, 5, sorry. 80 would be 80% of the students should make a year's worth of growth in your sort of core curricular program. 15% of the students are going to need your core plus some support, and 5% of your students may need a significantly different experience or something like that. So what we're also looking for with iReady, and you can see some of that reflected, is it an instructional problem or is it a curriculum problem? And I think Dr. Chen is uncovering that there are some areas where we need to address curriculum in order to again, have that 80-15-5 moving forward. So that's why I'm a bit confused as to the comments about the lack of focus on academics. I think we can probably talk about it more, and we maybe should if you all want us to do that. The data, again, I would say there's no anonymous learners in Burlington, which we're really proud of. We know sort of where every kid is and how they're progressing. We were one of the first districts to adopt iReady as a universal screener, and that was probably in 2010 when it was first developed. And so we've been using it for quite a long time in literacy, and as we said, we weren't using it in math because it needed to be developed further. We were using another screening tool moving forward. So in terms of student growth, I know MCAS is sort of the state measure, but it really depends where the kids start in terms of where they are in their learning and where they end. That matters to me. So even if our MCAS scores aren't reflective of other communities, if our growth scores are significant, then I think those students will eventually catch up. It all depends where the kids start from, and we don't get to make that choice.
And then with the MTSS task force, and I apologize for not being very clear about that, we're going to be focusing on the whole child. We're going to be taking a look at our not only our Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions when it comes to academics, but also our behavior, as well as our attendance. So we're going to be taking a look at that all next year.
And there's obviously attendance on the agenda tonight for us to preview as well.
And then we're also going to be very exciting, starting tomorrow. I have a group of 60 teachers going to be part of the implementation CKLA Amplify K-5 curriculum we're actually beginning. I also have the UBT task force coming in tomorrow to start working with me, and then also the UBD as well too. So we're already beginning a lot of the work starting this summer. We're going to be piloting a co-teaching model for our English learner education. That's very exciting. Carrie Lamprey has taken a look at that, and she's looked at some models across the state of Massachusetts, and we'll be working on bringing that here, especially to our elementary school. And we just want to see different ways that we can provide even greater opportunities for all of our students. Dr. Bonnie Nichols will also be assisting us with taking a core curriculum adoption for the middle school. We're going to continue on with the landmark training. Letters is completely filled with both preschool. We're going to partner with Woburn and Lexington for pre-K. And then we also have 40 folks who want to do the Letter 1 training. That's very exciting. And then we also have some folks wanting to continue on to do some Orton Gillingham work as well, too. We've developed some new pathways. There are going to be 2 new math courses. One is going to be a condensed 7th, 8th class, and the other one is an integrated grade 8 Algebra 1 class. And then in 2026 and 2027, we're going to have a full-blown high school Algebra 1 course. We have the Algebra 1 Summer Skills Review Program that's going to be starting off in towards the 3rd week in July. We have at least 75 students who have already signed up. This is very exciting. We had to close down session 1, and then we had to close down session 2. I had arranged for one more session, two more sessions in session 2. And so this is a very good, free, exciting review of Algebra 1. These are for students who may be doing geometry honors, who are going into 9th grade. It is also for students, for instance, in grade 9, 10, or 11, who may be taking Algebra 2 next year, who wants just a refresher. We're going to be examining our grading policy pre-K through 12 with the admin team this year. We just had our admin retreat on Monday, in which we started taking a look at what are our grading policies district-wide. I do know that the high school is also having that conversation, but in greater depth. And we're going to continue to work on learning intentions, success criteria, and scaffolding with our teachers next year, because all of these, when you take a look at the meta-analysis and John Hattie's work, All of these, if done correctly, have more than 1 year's growth of learning when done correctly, scientifically proven, with meta-analysis done with John Hattie's work, who is renowned in the world, of more than 1 year of student achievement if these strategies are put into place correctly. We're going to continue that type of work with teachers next year. Next, the next slide. I also want to take a look at our numbers, for instance, when it comes to students receiving dual enrollment credits. In 2023 and 2024, we had 154 students. These are the classes in which they got dual enrollment credits. Now, students take dual enrollment courses. We had 259 students take dual enrollment courses, but sometimes students choose not to pay or for the dual enrollment credits only because, for instance, they may want an AP credit instead, or their particular college may be going to like somewhere out of state, may not really accept the dual enrollment credit, but more so the AP requirements instead. So again, wanted to see what that looked like in 223, 224, and the courses that our students are offered. And again, next slide, in 224 and 225, we had 156 students. The number of students taking dual enrollment courses went up to about 275.
Dr. Chen, again, I guess I have to keep saying this now. Dual enrollment is something that we brought to Burlington, again, 17 years ago. It was a way for students to get college credit without leaving the high school campus. We met originally with Middlesex Community College, and we got them to approve. I think we initially did a calculus course where they had to approve the credentials of our teacher here. They're actually, our teachers have their joint faculty members with Middlesex and here, and then the Middlesex department approved the curriculum, and then students get 2 transcripts. So they would get a transcript from Burlington High School staying on campus, and also get a Middlesex community transcript if they pass the course. The difference between a dual enrollment course and an advanced placement course is an advanced placement course typically involves an exam. So if there's a student who's a very good test taker, advanced placement may have been the way to go. But dual enrollment courses, the students can just, again, be in their high school setting with a teacher who's familiar, but getting a curriculum that's approved by a higher ed institution. So we have Middlesex as our primary partner, but we have Bunker Hill Community College is someone we work with. UMass Boston is something we work, is a college and university we work with. And I believe the business courses have been added
University.
LaSalle University. And so anytime we're adding an advanced course, we're looking for a university partner to do that. The costs for an AP exam and dual enrollment are comparable. So students are typically not paying for both. The state has now adopted an early college program, which, again, you might have heard of. We are applying to be an early college district. The problem with early college, from my perspective, from the state, is you have to limit the students. You have to identify an underrepresented group of students, and those are the students that have access to early college or dual enrollment credits. Our choice 15, 16 years ago was to expand our program of studies and encourage all students to have access to dual enrollment classes. So by opening up this opportunity for all students, we've minimized our chances to participate in the early college program because the state supports the tuition reimbursement for the students who are in early college. So someone might say, Burlington High School is not an early college high school. That is a factual statement. Early college is a DESE designation, but we offer, I would say, more dual enrollment credit than any high school I've seen in Massachusetts. So again, I have to talk about myself now, I guess. That's one of the things that we brought here, and we've had lots of students who do that. So right now, if there's a student interested in engineering, for instance, they could start that journey in high school. They would have the opportunity to earn a year's worth of credit towards an associate degree. They could finish that associate degree at Middlesex Community College, get guaranteed acceptance into UMass Lowell, and finish their engineering degree at UMass Lowell in 2 years with the incredible tuition savings cost, and then their bachelor's degree would be from UMass Lowell, which is an incredible program. WPI is also now looking to create a pathway with Middlesex that we would also be a part of. So again, from a family's perspective, it may be a better choice to think about a pathway early and to start taking college credits, because all these credits are from an accredited institution of higher ed. So some universities or colleges don't accept advanced placement credit towards degree progress. They may place you in a more advanced class, but you still have to pay 4 years of tuition. If you go with an associate's degree or progress towards an associate's degree from an accredited institution, they can't limit your growth. And again, there are some universities trying to work around that now because they want the tuition, but most of the schools and that we have these pathways identified with are accelerating progress to degree termination. So again, I think we have an opportunity. There are communities and other, certainly where Lisa and I come from, there are students who are getting their high school diploma and their associate's degree concurrently in other states. So we're not quite there yet, but we are probably have a year down and are getting close to that goal where we could have students graduating again with an industry certification and associate's degree with their high school diploma. So thank you.
And I think the other thing that that I really love about Burlington is the fact that this can really help the opportunities there for the kids. And so you have the opportunity to finish college and to help save money for your parents, or to put that money instead if you want to go for a higher degree. And so I do have talked to some seniors in which it's very exciting for them to learn that they're going to be able to finish their particular college or university program in 2 to 3 years because of what we offer here at Burlington High School. All right, next slide. This is the Excel spreadsheet that I wanted to share with you guys, because I think that another thing that's very important for our students here that I've not seen, and this is working in different states, is that I think we've done a really good job when it comes to the flipped internship model. And I love the fact that, and thank you, Jeremy, for also being a part of that, of, you always measure, like, how do you gain more companies, and where are the companies coming in to take a look at our students? That's just so exciting for our students. So if we were to blow that particular up, I just wanted to show you this. That's it, and I'm sorry about that. So basically, in a nutshell, and really wanted to I think it was totally brilliant for us to have Shireen Tyrell, to have her be a coordinator of Pathways, just because she's doing a lot of amazing stuff, I think, in making all these business connections that we need. And 2024, we had about 17 companies, and you take a look at, these are really amazing companies: Fidelity Investments, Amazon Robotics, Amazon Web Services. And then in 2025, we have 23 companies. And you take a look at these are companies that, our students are having the opportunities to talk to and to get, a leg up on the world and a career, and to understand, for instance, like Microsoft and Mitra and PM Group, for instance, and the Renal Research Institute, the SAGE Analyst Group. I think anytime that you can make anything very palpable and real for students, it makes what they're learning interesting. So I really love the flipped internship model here. Love it.
So again, I guess I have to do this now because of Burlington's geography. We are blessed with lots of national companies here. Ms. Terrell was an atypical hire. I met Ms. Terrell when I was serving on the state's computer science digital literacy standards group as the only superintendent sitting on that group. She was working for Mass TLC at the time and was not a licensed teacher. I hired her into Burlington, and we created sort of a license for her to teach computer science under, and now she's the director of our Pathways program. She already had a lot of connections to the companies in our area, and now we're serving as the liaison for those companies for many of our surrounding districts across the Commonwealth. Why? Because Microsoft in Burlington is willing to support high school students, but they don't want to be approached by 30 different districts 30 different times. They want to be approached by one district, and then they'll support the program. So this summer, she's running a 4-week STEM experience that is going to be for artificial intelligence, with 1 week where the students are on UMass Lowell campus doing a pre-engineering experience. Fridays, they're going to be traveling to different companies. I think we have 50 students who are enrolled currently. We had to cap it. We have students from, the majority of students are from Burlington, but we have students from Chelsea, Revere, Arlington, Woburn, and there's a couple other districts that are a part of it. It's taking place again at Burlington High School, and the governor created a mass artificial intelligence hub, mass AI hub, and the model that we're using this summer is because we wanted to reach all kids. Students sometimes have to work and support themselves during the summer. So we got money from the governor's AI initiative to pay our students $250 a week to participate. So students are earning $1,000 for the 4-week experience if they come in. It's a pilot model that the state is looking to, they've supported it. They gave us $150,000. And if it's something that we can, hopefully we can expand and replicate and move to other parts of the district. But again, it was something that was initiated from an experience that we had, and that we had together, in bringing sort of an atypical industry partner into our school district, into our high school, to really teach our kids. So,
And Dr. Conti, if I'm correct,
just the result, Dr. Chen, was, again, in the state of the Commonwealth address, one of our high school students who had participated in the early versions of this program was featured in the governor's State of the Commonwealth address in terms of his creating an app, and now I think he's graduated at UMass Lowell, and he is moving forward. So that's a direct result of bringing Ms. Terrell and the flipped internships into Burlington High School. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Dr. Conti. I believe that we were the only high school in the state of Massachusetts to receive that. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And then they're going to be using our particular model for other schools. And I think
If it's successful,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So that's what we hope.
All right, so the next, please. The next slide is, I just wanted to outline that prior to us establishing this position, that she opened up an amazing career event to broaden participation in STEM. We didn't have any companies, of course. This didn't exist in 2024. And in 2025, we had 28 companies come to speak to our students, and over 40 speakers. And I'm going to tell you that this was an incredible event. For students to be able to participate in this and to speak with people who are already in the workforce is pretty amazing. And a lot of it is, again, focused on engineer, focused on the analysis, focused on the computer software, artificial intelligence. So this is very important, because nowadays you can just get knowledge, but it's how you apply that particular knowledge. All right. And then it goes on a little bit. If you were to go, if you were to scroll on down, you can see the rest of the companies as well, too, that were in full participation. All right, next, please. All right, one of the things that we also took a look at is, in 2024, there were about 5 field trips, but in 2025, we were able to expand to 9 field trips. We're always trying to build it bigger. I know that mass robotics was one of the areas in which we took a field trip to. That was very, very exciting for our students. I know that our students also loved going to the Hanscom Air Force Base. That was a very, very popular trip. And then also this year, we also had about 6 different speakers. And I think it's just, again, a lot of it just showing, opening up the eyes of our students, just to see the mass amount of careers that are available for them. All right, next, please. And then, again, you always want to continue to grow. In 2024, we had about 42 companies with our career fair, and in 2025, we have 47 companies. So, again, a lot of different types of companies and all different forms of businesses that are very much related to the pathways that we've built for our students, so that they can see that what they are learning, starting in pre-K and kindergarten, going all the way up to 12th grade, matters. So again, these are all of the different career fairs. So if you were to go on down, that shows you the list of people that came, that were involved in our career fair this year that students got to participate in. And that's always a very fun event for our students to be a part of.
And you all see the DECA program and how popular it is. Our business department does really well. We have a very strong personal finance curriculum that hits a lot of our students. We're talking about how to expand that, but I think that's also a very important skill to have students leave high school with. So, and again, we're talking about things that teachers do a tremendous amount, put a tremendous amount of effort in, but you all have supported those programs. You've supported the DECA Club, the expansion of the DECA Club moving forward, but these are the type of activities that we feel make the Burlington experience something that is, I think, worthwhile to participate in, and certainly worth the focus in terms of their experience in academics moving forward. So, Dr. Chen, thank you.
Yeah, and then one last thing is that also we were able to get a grant so that, and we've had a lot of teachers apply for this particular grant, and this was through Shereen Tyrell, that they're actually going to get paid if they do a little bit of artificial intelligence training, and we had quite a few teachers apply for that.
So again, I think we're really trying to push the state to have more curriculum that is moving in that direction. I know that took a long time, but I really wanted to, I guess we need to do more of these type of presentations so that people are aware more about what we were doing. The elementary schedules, I just wanted to put in your packet. I'm not looking for a vote or approval. One of the challenges we had with the literacy program at the elementary school was the blocks of times that we needed to create. So I wanted to show you those blocks of time, and so I hope that you were sent these in your packet. The Francis Wyman schedule is a little bit different just because we can't have 2 full grades go to the lunch at the same time, so they created sort of a cascading lunch. They also put in their abbreviated days, the 8 days that you all we're piloting. Those schedules are in there. A couple of the highlights, again, we wanted to show you is we did achieve the 120 minutes of literacy, and it's broken into two 90-minute blocks, 2 60-minute blocks, I'm sorry. One for skills, one for application, so you should see those blocks divided. That doesn't mean it's a 60-minute sit-down. The kids will be sort of appropriately active, but the blocks of time are included there. The science and social studies you won't see K to 3, but those are embedded in the literacy program, so those topics are taking place. And then what you will see in grade 4 and 5 is we don't have the 120-minute, we have the 90-minute block, and then those 30 minutes were put back into, so there'll be a set science and social studies block in 4th and 5th grade. I know also, Mr. Wojcik, you asked about win blocks, so there are non-overlapping win blocks throughout. We've actually extended some of those times, so hopefully we can, the point is to have not pull kids from core to support them in those skills, make sure they're getting core, and then we're supporting them, supplementing core for the skills that they need. So I think we don't need to do a minute by minute, but we wanted to give you a a demonstration. Again, wanted to share those schedules with you and also thank you because there was a lot of work put into scheduling this year in order to make the literacy adoption work. It wouldn't have made sense for us to adopt a literacy program if our schedules didn't support that. And so, Madam Chair, may I move on, or does anyone have any questions about the schedules? If you have questions about the schedules, we can also talk about them moving forward.
I had a question about the last presentation,
Oh,
so.
please, I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks.
So slide 13, I think it was for, again, the math, and then it does again on the reading, and with slide 42. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this data correctly. Because if you look at, let me get to that slide again.
Bob, could you?
Excuse me, so slide 17 in the packet that was sent to us, and then show slide 12, page 12 on mine, where it compares 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in mathematics over 23 to 25. If I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly, so please correct me if I am wrong. I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right. So,
One star that says, how have
relative placement,
changed
correct.
from spring to spring? I just want to make sure,
Yep.
sir, that I'm looking at the right one.
So again, this to me, I'm looking at a little more holistically, following a grade to 6, 7, and 8, right? So
Yes?
if you start at the 6th graders, 22 to 23, and then you follow them 23 to 24, they're in the 7th grade in that middle bar. And then in the 8th grade, 24 to 25, I see an opening gap in the divergent, like it's diverging where you maintain stasis with mid and grade level, but there is an opening now where some students are falling behind 3 grade levels or below, because you start at 7%, you move to 20, and then go to 24%.
So are you talking about how in
17.
in 2023,
Yep.
where it's 44%?
No, I'm looking at the bottom of the chart where you get 18% at 1 grade or below, 7%, and then the number grows when you follow that class through to 8th grade.
Right. That you are looking at that correctly.
Okay.
So you're seeing more students who are not making progress in 8th grade. Again, the content is changing, and that would be something for us to look at curriculum.
Yeah.
That would be, I think, one of the main reasons we're looking at our middle school scope and sequence.
Yeah. And I think it, again, if you look at it too, because I just, followed it like from a 5th grader, right? Because, my daughter was in kindergarten. If you look at 5th graders and how they moved it, it does correlate to COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want to know if that's still lingering effects or
We are still,
how that correlates.
and you are absolutely right, Mr. Brooks, that if someone were to say that you could, minimize the effects in just 1 year, they're not being honest with you, right?
No, totally
And
agree.
so it takes multiple years for us to get back. But I would say that that's why we're also taking a hard look at the middle school.
And then we're also figuring out, again, if our student population is changing over that time as well, who's coming in, where are they starting? May not be the exact same group of students, but you're picking up on that would be exactly what we would look at to try to say we need to, those red bars should be hopefully
Smaller.
shrinking.
I mean,
That's
like I
right.
said, I think it's good that you maintain kind of stasis with mid and above grade level. It would seem to be concerning where it grows on the, where folks are falling below a little bit.
Was your question about 42 the same?
Yeah, it was the same thing on the
Same thing,
reading. It was
yeah.
the same grade, same,
Uh-huh.
so it kind of follows through. It just, like I said, it stuck out to me. It looked to me like a trend or something. Again, it'd be something worth investigating.
Yes, we are looking at that. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
And through the chair, Dr. Conti, I wanted to thank you for your hard work on the schedule, making sure that our wing blocks are separated, that students are getting access to Tier 1 instruction, as well as the interventions they need to be successful in Tier 1 instruction. And I know that you've carried this over to the early release schedule as well, so that students will get everything that they need and not lose out on those service minutes. So thank you very much. I know it's incredibly difficult to make a schedule like that.
Again, Dr. Chen, actually Sean Musselman was really committed. The principals were really committed. We spent a lot of afternoons sort of going through stuff. So again, a lot of other people do the work, but I just wanted to make sure that you had mentioned some important pieces that you wanted us to maintain, and we really tried to do that. And
Get everyone's work.
well, we're going to evaluate that as we move forward. So any other questions? Because I asked Ms. Miliano to come back, and she's going to be a regular attendee now. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
Robin, do you want to come on up? And Robin's going to talk more about the details, but I think we're not asking you to make a policy change tonight, but we're going to be introducing policy language in July, hopefully for adoption in August, and then a change in the student handbooks for next year. And it has to do with attendance. Our local attendance policy does not match the state's expectations, or sort of, I'm not going to say they have a policy, but sort of how they want districts to run. So a lot of times they're rating our schools, or our local policy is hurting how we are being evaluated and rated as a school district in individual schools by the state, because the state also gives us an accountability rating. So Robin, you're going to get into some of the details, and then we're going to ask you to we're going to give you some different policy attendance language to consider, again, as a first reading in July, but we wanted to conceptually introduce you to sort of what the need was right now.
So the Department of Education considers chronic absenteeism as students who are here 90% or less in a year, or for the year. So in 180 days, any student that has 18 or more absences would be considered chronic absent. The school committee policy for the past several years has been, as far as excused and unexcused absences is concerned, it has been that if a parent calls his child in absent, that becomes an excused absence, because the parent is calling in saying, my child is sick, that becomes an excused absence. The way that DESE does not differentiate between an excused absence or an unexcused absence. So an absence is an absence. And so if you have a student who is absent 18 days and their parent calls them in each of those 18 days, in our eyes, that student is unexcused and would not necessarily be chronic, because we're only necessarily looking at the chronically absent, unexcused absences. So in DESE's eyes, whether they're absent 18 days excused or 18 days unexcused, to them it's a chronic absenteeism. But in the way that we look at that, we're not intervening on those students who have excused absences. And so it does. What DESE is getting is our absences, regardless of whether they're excused or unexcused. But as Dr. Conti said, we're sort of on our accountability, our numbers are really high. And so I think what we need to be looking at is a different way to sort of intervene earlier and on our way, in our policies, so that the students and the families we're sort of interacting with them at an earlier phase. And I'm not maybe not explaining that.
I think you're explaining it very well. So we have students who would be, the state considers chronically absent, who aren't chronically absent locally. So given the policy that parents can excuse them from attending, parents can still excuse their child from attending. We're not forcing kids to come to school, but if they are, for instance, if they're out 5 days, the state expects us typically to send a letter to the family saying your student has missed 5 days of school. Attendance is important. You need to come in. As Robin said, if they miss 18 days of school, then they're considered chronically absent. We have to call the family in. They need to come in. We need to have a plan. We need to have the family move forward. I also want you to think about that not every family is comfortable calling in an excuse for their child. So we're also seeing very different excused absence rates depending on the families and where they're from. So we may have students who are absent an equal number of days, but have parents excusing certain kids, and they just look very different. So the downside of changing your policy to match the state would be that more families are going to get letters from the school district saying, your child has been out for 5 days and they need to be in school. You may have excused your child. You may have gone on a family trip. And you might say that's fine with me. But it allows us, the state, to look at our absenteeism a little bit differently. So we're not getting dinged for having a high number of chronically absent students because one of our schools, I think our high school, was put into some sort of improvement category, which I'm sure gets everyone's attention, and it's because of the local attendance policy. It's because of absenteeism, not because of achievement levels. So we're going to be asking you to change your policy in July. We're going to be sharing language with you that really doesn't distinguish between excused and unexcused absences, and then we're going to need to communicate that to families and also put it in the student handbooks. And again, the difference is going to be that there may be some families who get letters who haven't received those letters in the past. It also allows us to, as Robin is saying, do an earlier intervention, bring the families in if the absentees start to approach a chronic level. It also allows us to use potentially other state agencies to help get students to attend school. So there's a wide spectrum of why students are missing school. I'm not saying everyone is bad. Please, that's not what I'm saying. But it would really help us in terms of our accountability measures and with, I think, more consistency across all of our families to follow the state guidance, which is to not make a distinction between excused and unexcused absences. A day out of school is a day out of school.
There are some reasons that that would be considered an excused absence that is pretty much throughout the state that most districts would count these. So that would be a religious day, that would be an excused absence. Jury duty for our older students, right? If there was a legal or court reason for the student to be out, if there was a bereavement or funeral, that would also be included. And then this is where I think it gets a little gray, is the medical reason. So there's a medical reason, and in our previous policies, it used to be that you used to have a medical note. You needed to have a medical note to have that be an excused absence. But that policy changed several years ago, where there's not a note that's necessary. So if your child is home and they're sick and you're the parent calling them in, as long as you're calling them in and saying, my child is sick, we are considering that an excused absence. In most districts, or many, I don't say most, I don't really know that that's true, but in many districts, that is not considered an excused absence. And so what happens is that a student is, maybe be sick, several times during the school year, but the state is saying that if there's 5 unexcused absences, that there should be a letter that goes home, and there should be some sort of a meeting with the parent to kind of get an attendance, an attendance in place, a program in place. And what's happening is that we're not counting those students because they're excused. The state is saying that they're unexcused absences, and that should generate the letter. And so we do have a big disparity of students who are, the families are being involved, the schools is involved with the families, because some parents don't call it their children saying they're sick, they're unexcused, or they're unauthorized absences because they don't, maybe it's a language barrier. They're not calling them in, parents aren't calling them in the same way as other parents might be. And just as some data that I pulled for Dr. Conti at the end of the school year, so again, 90% is considered chronic absent. We had 13% of our students had a chronic absentee that were absent 90% or more. And then so that's considered chronic. And then the next level would be like a warning. So anybody who's within 90 to 93% absent is in the warning level. And we in that group, we had 13.5%. So we do have quite a bit of absences going on. And again, DESE's not distinguishing between excused and unexcused, but it would help the schools, it would help the administrators in the school to have a little bit more clarity in what is an excused absence. And so that's why we're going to be doing some work on attendance policies and over the summer, and then going into the next school year. So we'd like to have a little bit more clarity from the school committee as to what we're, what our, we're going to be counting as chronic absenteeism.
I think we all are thinking the same thing, is that I would like to demarcate some sort of medical excuse, especially in this day and age. We don't want to be encouraging folks to come to school ill. At the same time, I do understand that days out of school is days out of school. But I think that's where we get with the excused absence versus unexcused is it's still visible that you've been out of school 10 days, but 8 of them for medical reasons. I could go back and forth about a note, but I do also am surprised to know that if I call and say we're going to Disney World, that's considered an excused
Vacation is not an excused absence.
All right.
So that I can clarify that.
Okay.
Vacation is not an excused absence regardless. So, and then we do have a policy if someone's going to be gone for consecutively 15 school days, that we actually need to withdraw the student because they're not being educated during that 15 days, so 15 or more days. So we do have that policy.
I just had a question too on the medical side of things. So, and again, from the state perspective, is there some definition that they're giving us? So let's say I had some I'd have surgery. I got in a car accident and had major surgery, and I'm stuck in the hospital for 10 days as a student. Is that going to be, the last thing I need is a nastygram saying my kid has missed 5 days or more of school when that's the situation. And then, I'm just trying to understand, like, when you put something in the policy, how's the state defining that as unexcused as a medical?
The state does not define that. They say that it is up to the local school committees to determine individually how that is. However, when we're doing our state reporting, and again, an absence is an absence, whether it's excused or it's not excused. So if you're out 15 days or 10 days or whatever with a medical, but what's happening is that on our end of it, for administrators, we're not able to, I don't want to say we're not able to, but we're not sort of generating these letters of, let's put a plan in place, and an attendance plan in place for students who are really missing quite a lot of school. And so I think that that's one of the things that we want to be looking at, because we all know that attendance is crucial to the learning, right? And so,
and Robin, this has evolved because of the accountability measures the state had to do away with during COVID. We used to have a 95% threshold for student attendance in order to be considered sort of having a passing grade during the pre-COVID time. What happened after COVID is students weren't returning to school in the same way. And Ms. Massardo, maybe it was a cultural thing where you don't go to school sick or whatever, but I think it was something where they didn't come in. So the 90% threshold for chronically absent is actually a lower threshold than they used to have prior to COVID, and the state's putting on a big push for school attendance last year, and they're really asking the districts to take a look at this. So.
I have 2 questions. Is the goal of the letter to kind of put pressure on the families to reduce the absences?
I think so, Mrs. Monaco, because I think that, it's maybe twofold, right? To sort of see what's going on with the student, and if there's any other measures that we can be providing, if it's a medical, if it's a mental health issue, like what's happening that's causing your student to not be coming to school.
So at the beginning of the conversation, I think it was you that said somehow this is held against us. So first of all, how is it held against us? And second, if we send out the letters and we make new policies, unless the absenteeism is decreased and more students come to school more often, will it change anything that's being held against us?
Well, I mean, as Dr. Conti said, part of our accountability ratings that we get, attendance is part of that calculation, and so. our goal, obviously, is to increase our attendance, so and not only just for our accountability rating, but, so that we know that our students are coming to school and they're learning, but it's just one piece of what the state is looking at when they're giving us our overall ratings. And I think, Dr. Conti, was it real? I think it was just the high school that had that sort of needs improvement in the attendance piece, correct?
Yeah, it was. But again, Ms. Bond, it's not meant to be a nastygram. It's meant to be sort of what's going on. We want your kid to be in school. I think part of the challenge with the high school is we have students who are missing 45 days. So again, it's really not borderline. It's really where we need to, and I guess we could do this, Ms. Monaco, to your point, we could do this whether you change the definition here in your policy or not. We could act like sort of there's no excused or unexcused, but I'm not sure. Given the flexibility, we have far too many kids who are missing more than 18 days of school. What we would hope to do is at or near 18, we would try to arrange a meeting with the family, even potentially a home visit. We would make it as friendly as possible, but say, what's hindering your child from coming to school, and how can we help support your child in school? So, Mr. Wojcik, I'm sort of reading your mind right now. It's not for sort of specialized cases where there are kids who are struggling with their attendance who have been identified. We have kids who are just missing school. And so we need to have that conversation. It's really meant to be done in partnership with the family, but we have different relationships with many families, and then there are tools that we have. It's a requirement, not for kindergarten, but it's a requirement for there's compulsory attendance, so students need to be in school, or they're considered truant unless there are, again, documented reasons for not doing that. So having you change your policy would make our job a little bit easier, but I understand how we communicate that to families is really important, and we could treat every absence as it doesn't matter, even if your policy stays the same. But there are going to be families who are receiving letters who haven't received letters given your current policy. And so if you're going to get phone calls, we sort of wanted to have this conversation regardless of whether your policy changes or not. I'm feeling like we need to have more of a consistent practice, and we have to follow how we're being evaluated by the state, because I think people are the data is going to misrepresent how we are doing.
And I'm sorry. I just want to go ahead, Ms. Bond.
No, I was just going to say, I meant I only said nastygram in reference to if I had a student who had a broken leg and I'm getting a letter. Yeah. I only called it a nastygram in that situation. In any other situation, you're missed 5 days, you missed five days. But if I had a legitimate excuse, I'd be ticked off.
I had a child who had surgery, and I received that letter, and I thought, and the school knew that my child was having surgery, and I thought, oh, well, this is good that, if another family is not in the similar situation, they're being brought to the table to say, hey, how can we get your kid to school? I didn't feel like it was a nastygram from my perspective. I felt like it was an olive branch to say, how can we help your student? Right. How can we support you?
The letter is that we've had vetted through the lawyer is really in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 76, Section 1, which is an attendance policy, which is that your child needs to come to school, right? That's part of the. And so what the letter is saying is that. We want to work with you. Let's get an attendance plan in place. Let's have this meeting. Just again, to check in, what is it that we can do to help you? How can we get your child to school more consistently? Now, again, if your child the principals and assistant principals and whoever's going to be sort of generating these letters and having the meetings, they have full discretion to say, oh, this child, had surgery. We're not going to send them that letter, right? I mean, they can certainly do that, but we're trying to. I'm having a report created through Aspen where it will easily identify chronically absent students who are sort of in that warning. And then I've been working with Ms. Northrup and Mr. Adebato at the high school just to kind of to tweak that report a little bit, because we know that it's really happening at the high school, but let's not kid ourselves. That's not happening at all levels. You know, as young as kindergarten, we're seeing some students with chronic absenteeism. And so if we can start addressing this issue more consistently, and you know, then we may see, the hope is that we will see our numbers go down.
Yep.
Just sort of to cut through all of the conversation, it sounds to me like what we're trying to do is reduce absenteeism. And as a byproduct of that, if we're able to do it, it reflects well on us through the state.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
I just want to say, well, I think I said it, but I think if we get a little more crisp on what is a medically excused absence versus what is just a general absence, then I think that addresses a lot of these concerns. Like, okay, you need a doctor's note after 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
And then when someone sees 10 absences, they would have a doctor's note and say 9 of these were, ankle surgery. So I'm totally fine, I think, solidifying this in a policy just to make it clear for everyone when you get the letter, I think even my kids' report cards, I was like, I don't even know which absences these are, but they're all lumped together. There's no excused versus unexcused. So if we got a little bit more crisp on that, I think it would be helpful for everyone. Jeremy?
Yeah, just, I don't know if I missed it or not, but what is the implication if the trend doesn't improve? So it's that needs improvement category. Does something else happen? Does the state step in some way?
I don't think there's a absentee penalty or anything like that. I just think it's something that they're spending more attention at because of the trend back from COVID was to see far more chronic absenteeism across the state. So they're trying to incentivize us. I think they might like to get back to that 95% threshold. But I think the accountability system is changing, obviously, since the MCAS sort of mandate has changed. So I think there's a lot going on, but I think the first thing here is attending school is important, and maybe that's the message that we need to send out. Because if there are students who are absent a certain amount of time, we then also are obligated to arrange for tutoring. So there is an obligation on our part to make sure kids are educated, and there's a bunch of different parts here. I didn't want to send you policy language in July without providing some context for that conversation. So hopefully you'll have the context. We'll look at some surrounding places. We'll ask you to look at your current policy, and we'll send you some, I think you have some backup here with the Mass General Law, and we'll get as detailed as you want. We are going to have to change our practice, whether your policy changes or doesn't change. And we're going to need to communicate that to parents directly and then through the student handbook. So you'll see those changes eventually there. We really want kids to be in school, and we want to try to, if there's an issue, try to address that issue with individual families so their kids come to school. So I think, because again, Robin does a great job reporting. She gets all the data. It's certainly accurate. And if we're not having good conversations with families well ahead of a 10% absentee rate, then that's on us. So we have to have those conversations.
All right, thank you.
Robin, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Robin.
Summer schedule.
Just a reminder, just put it in your packet again. We have 22nd and the 19th, and then those are the dates for next year. So if there's any issues, please let me know, and we'll address them as we go forward. This was just meant to be.
Is it in the packet?
Sorry?
Sorry, I can't find the dates. It's fine. I'll look. I have them marked somewhere else. Oh, they're there. All right. Back to it. All right, Dr. Conti's evaluation. All right. She just printed me one copy, not 5.
No, I can print one.
Oh, no, it's all right. I emailed it.
I don't know if I got a copy of it. There, look.
I have it on my computer, so.
Let me make sure. You want me to just,
No, I mean, I can,
you have it on your computer?
I have it on my, I just sent it to you guys too. Just now, yeah.
Oh, just now?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Someone wants a paper copy, I can certainly do that.
All right. So I'm just gonna read it. This is the end of cycle summative evaluation report. This is provided by DESE. It's the same one we fill out every year. There's halfway through specific district goals, and I can read those. But the beginning is an overall assessment progress towards goals, professional practice goals, student learning goals, and district improvement goals. I received all 5 individual reports, and I've combined them here for the most part, averaging and then combining comments. So and the rankings, of course, are different for almost every category, so it's kind of a confusing sheet, but the options are did not meet, some progress, significant progress, met or exceeded for these 3 goals. I have Dr. Conti marked as met for all 3 professional practice, student learning, and district improvement goals. The next section is assess performance on standards. Standard 1 is instructional leadership. Standard 2 is management and operations. Standard 3 is family and community engagement. And standard 4 is professional culture. These 4 rankings are unsatisfactory, needs improvement, efficient, or exemplary. Again, the combined ranking for all 4 of these is proficient, which brings us to the combined overall summative performance ranking based on the 2 I just read. Again, which goes from unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient to exemplary. I have you marked as proficient. The evaluator comments, again, I tried to pull from everyone. So some key achievements for the 2024-2025 school year were the new K through 5 literacy curriculum selection, purchase, and schedule integration, the successful addition of Algebra 1 in 8th grade, Fox Hill funding and partnership with MSBA, successful BEA negotiations, including the scheduling side letter, and an assortment of awards. The district won. Mr. Sullivan was awarded MSAA Principal of the Year. Memorial School won a DESE School of Recognition, and Francis Wyman School received an Apple Distinguished School Award. The areas of focus needed. There is work to be done on the organizational structure of the district to better utilize existing personnel and ensure that our administrative positions cover areas of need. We should be doing more work to define reporting relationship and growth opportunities for our leaders. Our capital planning documents could be more comprehensive, and a review of internal administrative procedures should be done. For the performance goals, this is kind of wordy, so I will go through there's 6, each rank from did not meet, some progress, significant progress, met, and exceeded. The student learning goal is for the 2022 to 2025 post-pandemic years. I will lead the district as we recommit to our students' learning and well-being by focusing on the district's commitment to engaged, inclusive teaching and the opportunity for all students to learn and develop regardless of their ability, disability, age, gender identity, or cultural and linguistic background. Have that ranking as met. Professional practice goal. Over the next 3 years, I will lead and model respectful and kind discourse grounded in the BPS vision, equity statement, and core values with students, staff, families, and the community. In doing so, I expect the discourse to result in all our students demonstrating learning growth and experiencing a sense of belonging to our school community, which will help them to flourish and thrive in whatever college or career pathway they may choose upon graduation. Also have that as met. The district improvement goal number 1 is learning. Empower all students through a rigorous, dynamic, and relevant curriculum designed to include the academic, social, emotional, and psychological supports to ensure student growth and achievement. Also have that as met. District goal 2, equity, educate and allow all learners to be their authentic selves so they attain high academic standards and outcomes by creating challenging learning environments where they feel they truly belong because they see representations of themselves in their curricula and in their teachers and support staff. Also have that as met. Thriving, strengthen BPS culture through relationships between and amongst students, staff, families, and the Burlington community to ensure the health, safety, security, and happiness of all learners and adults. I also have this as met. Last district improvement goal is facilities and finance. Ensure fiscal responsibility, transparency, and the long-term stability of the district by utilizing resources effectively and providing facilities that are safe and well-maintained to support the success and growth of all learners and adults. Have that one also as met. All right. Now we have the standard 1 instructional leadership. These also go from the U. Unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, exemplary. Back to that ranking. All right. Curriculum ensures that all instructional staff design effective and rigorous standards-based units of instruction consisting of well-structured lessons with measurable outcomes. Proficient. Instruction ensures that practices in all settings reflect high expectations regarding content and quality of effort and work, engage all students, and are personalized to accommodate diverse learning styles, needs, interests, and levels of readiness. Proficient. Assessment ensures that all principals and administrators facilitate practices that propel personnel to use a variety of formal and informal methods and assessments to measure student learning, growth, and understanding, and make necessary adjustments to their practice when students are not learning. Exemplary. Evaluation ensures effective and timely supervision and evaluation of all staff in alignment with state regulations and contract provisions. Proficient. Data-informed decision-making uses multiple sources of evidence related to student learning, including state, district, and self-assessment results and growth data to inform school and district goals and improve organizational performance, educator effectiveness, and student learning. Proficient. Overall ranking, proficient. Commentary. Significant curriculum work has been done this year and there have been many cross-functional working groups that got positive reviews. It is great that curriculum work has begun and a new literacy program has been identified, but more work is still to be done to implement. Same with math, that we are making progress but need to ensure that we keep moving forward. The implementation of new assessment tools received positive praise. Performance rating for Standard 2, Management and Operations. Environment develops and executes effective plans, procedures, routines, and operational systems to address a full range of safety, health, emotional, and social needs. Proficient. Human Resources Management and Development implements a cohesive approach to recruiting, hiring, induction, development, and career growth that promotes high quality and effective practice. Proficient. Scheduling and management information systems uses systems to ensure optimal use of data and time for teaching, learning, and collaboration, minimizing disruptions and distractions for school-level staff. Exemplary. Law, ethics, and policies understands and complies with state and federal laws and mandates, school committee policies, collective bargaining agreements, and ethical guidelines. Proficient. Fiscal systems develop a budget that supports the district's vision, mission, and goals, allocates and manages expenditures consistent with district and school level goals and available resources. Proficient. Overall ranking for management operations, proficient. Commentary. The superintendent received praise for his successful business and operations leaders. He works well with our town government to ensure appropriate funding. Superintendent deserves credit for successful collective bargaining agreements with no student disruption that has been seen in surrounding towns. The budget process is communicated very well and done thoroughly with rigor and accuracy. improvement could be made in the areas of facilities and capital planning to become more proactive than reactive in creating a comprehensive facilities capital plan. Opportunities exist to optimize resource allocation with staffing needs. Lastly, there is a need for greater consistency and oversight to ensure that policy changes are fully enacted and maintained across the system. Standard 3 is family and community engagement. Engagement actively ensures that all families are welcome members of the classroom and school community and can contribute to the effectiveness of the classroom, school, district, and community. Proficient. Sharing responsibility. Continuously collaborates with families and community stakeholders to support student learning and development at home, school, and in the community. Proficient. Communication. Engages in regular two-way culturally proficient communication with families and community stakeholders about student learning and performance. Proficient. Family concerns. Addresses family and community concerns in an equitable, effective, and efficient manner. Proficient. Overall ranking for family and community engagement. Proficient. Commentary. Dr. Conti is very committed to building a school culture where every voice matters. His leadership has strengthened many partnerships with community programs. The district works to create bridges between home and school, ensuring that student learning and development are supported across all environments. Parent Square has met many communication needs, but there are still many areas for improvement in terms of making it more user-friendly for parents and setting standards across schools and teachers. Lastly, developing a strong family and community engagement strategy will improve relationships and responsiveness. A more proactive communication approach will build trust and foster responsibility for student well-being. Lastly is the standard 4 for professional culture. Commitment to high standards. Fosters a shared commitment to high standards of service, teaching, and learning with high expectations for achievement for all. Proficient. Cultural proficiency ensures that policies and practice enable staff members and students to interact effectively in a culturally diverse environment in which students' backgrounds, identities, strengths, and challenges are respected. Proficient. Communication demonstrates strong interpersonal written and verbal communication skills. Exemplary. Continuous learning develops and nurtures a culture in which staff members are reflective about their practice and use student data, current research, best practices, and theory to continuously adopt, practice, and achieve improved results. Models these behaviors in his or her own practice. Proficient. Shared vision successfully and continuously engages all stakeholders in the creation of a shared educational vision in which every student is prepared to succeed in post-secondary education and become a responsible citizen and global contributor. Exemplary. Managing conflict employs strategy for responding to disagreement and dissent, constructively resolving conflict and building consensus through a district or school community. Proficient. Overall rating for professional culture. Proficient. Commentary. Dr. Conti has created a strong leadership team, and we have seen them present many times at our meetings. There are many dedicated professionals among them. The district is moving forward with focus on standardization between schools and department, etc. Would like to see us continue in that direction and really focus on it. We should continue to focus on culturally responsive engagement. There are some processes and procedures that are not well defined. The district leadership should focus on reviewing and finding these so that we can ensure accountability within the district. Expanding the district's methods for conflict resolution may also enhance trust. The end. Any further comments? I hope I incorporated everyone's feedback. Thank you, Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I do each year, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that the learning and organizational progress we've made this year is the direct result of the expertise, dedication, and hard work of roughly 750 employees, teachers, administrators, instructional support staff, and operational teams. Any recognition that I receive as superintendent is truly a reflection of their collective skills. And we're fortunate to have such a talented and committed team serving our students. And again, I understand that there are, any organization has shortcomings, and obviously There are some families who have experienced shortcomings in regarding the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. These are ultimately the responsibility of the leader of the system. That's me. We have examined the systems around the YRBS, documented in the review by Attorney Sankey, and will deeply reflect on the findings and recommendations and make changes where the interests of all of our students make those changes advisable. So we're in process of making the changes that I think will improve the process. The issues that we've heard about and listened to shouldn't overshadow the many accomplishments of our students throughout the year. And like all organizations and individuals, school districts are not perfect. But it is in our imperfections where opportunities for growth and learning emerge. We are constantly working to improve, and there is no better model for our students than our own ongoing efforts to grow and to adapt. Again, this is a challenging time to be an educator, especially in public education. We have to navigate changing federal and state mandates while honoring local policy and a range of community and family values and beliefs that are complex, particularly when those values and beliefs can differ significantly. I'm proud of the Burlington faculty, staff, and students for their continued commitment to making every child feel welcome, seen, and valued in our classrooms. Burlington is a wonderful community. I'll say that again. Burlington is a wonderful community. I'm honored and humbled to serve here. I hope we can continue to engage in respectful dialogue about important topics without targeting individuals. These thoughtful, respectful conversations provide a vital example for our students to witness and learn from. So thank you for the feedback from this community. I take the feedback very seriously, and will incorporate the feedback into my future sort of objectives for the district moving forward. So I know evaluation takes time, and I appreciate your sincere conveying of your thoughts on my performance. So thank you.
Can I just ask why Sam?
Moving on.
Are you presenting the food service transition, or is Carrie?
We are.
Okay.
So Bob, we have handouts for everybody? Yeah, so we're going to move on. You don't, but they were in the packet? Okay, so you all got the handouts in the packet and wanted to provide more detailed information in terms of the transition. I think we got, we have a vote that we're working from, but I think we also got some very good questions about how can this work and can it work or will it work? So we went back and looked at all of our billing. So you have a year at a glance in the spreadsheet that you received. You have a bill.
What are we looking at first?
I'm sorry, I'm not looking at anything particular right now. I'm just saying sort of what we sent you was a sort of a year at a glance with sort of with revenues and expenditures. We wanted to sort of give you that information. You have a sample bill that we received from Whitson's that provides a detailed summary of their expenses and costs that were also sent to you. And then what we tried to do is provide a summary of what our current situation is and commitments are in terms of revenues and costs, and then what we would project for next year managing this in-house. Some of the assumptions that we made were
Thank you.
If you look at the side-by-side comparison, we estimated that we would have, or we projected we would have the same exact participation rates that we are currently having. So we didn't project any increase in participation. And of course, our role would be to increase participation, but we wanted to provide sort of a year-to-year comparison. We also wanted to project, as you can see in the handout, a 10% increase in food costs. And because I think part of the feedback that we got from parents through you all and from parents directly is they wanted to see an increase in the quality of food that was purchased and extended down into the elementary levels. We added in, again, a difference between the current year and a future year was we put in money for staff training. We wanted to have more staff training for our managers. And again, I think that was a commitment that we wanted to see more of in terms of this year. And then we also looked at in terms of district expenses, we also projected a 10% increase in our projected costs. So we're, again, trying to make this as realistic as possible. We included in our labor costs the contractual increase that our cafeteria workers would be getting next year. There's a clerical that is a 4-hour clerical position that we actually would like to expand, but that's currently in the budget. The missing piece for us right now is a food service director, so we don't have that salary in. But even if we're not considering that salary, sort of the bottom line on the sheet that I'm looking at sort of right now, the comparison between this year and projected next year, there'd be about $140,000 difference in terms of the operating expenses, and that's inclusive of, again, a 10% increase in food costs, training funding, and a 10% increase in service delivery costs. So we feel like we can provide staffing for the director within the projected difference between what the costs are for Whitson's and what we would provide the cost moving in-house. And that would be, again, maintaining the roughly $200,000 balance that we would sort of see moving forward. So that's projected given the numbers that we have. And Bob, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And that would be, again, assuming equal participation, moving forward. So, so I think that was part of the impetus for the feedback that we got from our food service staff, as they felt like they could provide a higher quality experience and do some training and provide, again, higher quality of food purchases for an equivalent cost. Bob, you said one of the missing pieces for us in this would be the software that determines, that communicates menus and ingredients. And you've also included that in the projected cost for next year and software. So again, if you see that cost, you see the cost there for the $12,000. So we believe we can do it at the same price, but we wanted to make sure that we had some money that we're putting in there. So, Mr. Brooks, I think you were asking us for sort of a side-by-side and some more detail. And again, this was the type of presentation. I didn't realize we were going to have a vote, but we had to vote. So this would be the sort of the type of modeling that we wanted to present with the vote.
Thank you.
So,
this is what I would have preferred to see before we voted. Why are operating costs going down and payroll going down?
Payroll's going down because we pulled the director out of the payroll.
The clerical and the director stipend is currently in the payroll fee now, and it's pulled out because we have to define those, one with the current 4-hour clerical, whether or not it's increased, and then because there's an unknown salary attached to the...
For a new person.
Correct.
And the operating costs? The third line down, they decrease fairly dramatically. 36,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, that's a fee. That's removed in the equation.
That's a Whitson's fee?
Yes.
It's not any of these management, admin, payroll fees?
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Through the chair. So currently we had a management structure in place and a liaison to make all this run. So are we going to implement all this with one position change and one position addition? Additionally, like, I don't know if we don't know it or we broke it down by Glenn on operating costs and district expenses, but, are we doing away with the black earth composting because Whitson's is gone? Equipment purchases will still need to occur, and then, repairs and sharpening and all that, you're looking about $30,000 that's kind of unaccounted for in the projected, which is just a top line number without the cleanse broken out in district expenses. So it's a little hard to break out where some of this cost saving is. Is that all just because it's a projection and we don't have data from previous operating expenses and district expenses for that? And basically where I'm coming from is, I think, where are the position burdens we're going to add, and then how do we capture those other costs that seem to be absent in the projections?
Bob, can you talk about the positions? Because I think you maybe just restate what you had just said with sort of who's where, and then we can talk about some of the other expenses and where they're coming from.
Yeah, again, so based on previously, prior to Whitson's, we had one food services director and a 0.5. We're showing right now a 0.5 and an unknown salary for the new food services director. Our recommendation would be at least an upgrade or an increase to the hours. So a 4-hour to either a 6 or an 8-hour, at least in the clerical support of that. And again, full-time on the food service managers at a minimum is what we're recommended.
Is this 4 hours a day?
So currently, right now, it's 4 hours a day for the clerical.
Okay.
And that was prior to.
4 hours a week. Okay.
No, 4 hours per day.
Okay.
And then there's a full-time, or would be a full-time food services manager. So.
And that's reverting back to the previous model we had where this drove the need to implement the outsourcing of food services.
Well, we were talking about increasing the support position from half-time to full-time, so it wouldn't be the exact model that we had in the past. But I guess, yes, to your other question, it would be, but that model existed without the state providing the breakfast and lunch that they do now, so that sort of changes the model a little bit.
Yep.
I think some of your other questions were, I think some of those operational expenses or the composting and stuff we were taking out of the revolving account. So I think that's where we would take those, Bob, moving forward.
Again, that's the projection. We would continue in the same aspect.
So again, the knife sharpening, all that should be, again, I want to make sure I'm.
That's where I just feel like we're underestimating operating costs. I would think that those things, composting should fall under operating costs. I don't think it's swaying the equation here, but.
Yeah, if you look on the backside of the sheet, the district expenses are broken out into the composting, the equipment repairs, the knife sharpening, the special order items. So those are all incorporated. And again, there we were projecting that's sort of the current expenses, and then we added 10% to the current expenses. So I think
it's mostly this business insurance, and we don't need insurance.
We have our own insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how's that cost center captured then if we're carrying the insurance, but not under this, bucket of money?
The chair, was that because we had another company coming in to provide a service within the school that we had to have additional service for that insurance for that company, or what was the purpose of that?
Again, I'm not sure I can answer that question, Bob. Do you know the answer to that question?
I will have to report back on that.
I think it's just a part of their billing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're in it now. It's kind of over and done with. So I'm just trying to understand all the cost burdens and make sure we're capturing appropriately so we can, kind of monitor and control and see where we're at over the next year or two.
But again, roughly it was about $200,000 to have Whitson's come in. I think they And speaking to the managers, they said they learned a lot from Whitson's. They said that some of the things they really liked was that commitment to have, for instance, fresh fruit at every lunch cut up. So I think Whitson's came in and set a higher standard than we had. And I think when we spoke to the CAF managers, I think they agreed to that. They just wanted to see that standard sort of maintained. They wanted to see more of it at the elementary level, which is really why there was a commitment in the projected model here to spend more on food. I know from a Ways and Means perspective, Cheyenne, having the guaranteed, like not losing money, having the guarantee of, I think it was $90,000 roughly, was something that we had to rectify, but we feel like with the state supporting that and given the operating expenses and expanding that clerical position, so there's a greater skill set in terms of financial skill set that we can provide more regular updates, that we feel like we can operate within that window and certainly offset the $200,000 of expense and put a part of that back into the training for our staff, again, a director, and higher quality food for especially the elementary level. But again, this wasn't anything the manager said they appreciated sort of learning from this outside company, and I think they wanted to take that learning and now apply it themselves. And when we met with them, they really felt like they could have participation numbers go up. But again, in our projection, we're looking at a level number of participation. If participation goes up, then someone's going to ask, you may need more staff. And again, that's true. But then the participation numbers would help drive the revenue for the added staff. So, Bob, I want to make sure I'm capturing our conversation with the managers. Again, they were I didn't know what to expect, but it was, again, a positive that they felt like they learned a lot the last couple of years and wanted to now apply it. I think I don't know, I can't speak to Whitson's model everywhere, but I know in many districts, they provide the management and the workers and the kitchen staff. And I think they have more control over that. I think we maintain the Burlington sort of staff, and I think they have a lot of pride in providing that service to the community and to the students of the community. Many of them know the kids really well because they feed them at the elementary school for 6 years. So they know them pretty well. And I think they honestly wanted to take what they've learned. I think they were exposed to a different way of operating and a new standard, and they want to take it back. And so I think it was a sincere effort. And I think in the numbers that we looked at, we feel like we can not lose money, that we can still operate at the same margin and improve and adopt some of the improvements that Whitman has brought in, and then make sure that they continue and extend down to the elementary school. A few of the things we talked about is having, for instance, a higher quality vegetarian option at every lunch, making sure, I think some of you all mentioned, like cereal and bake, like we have to make sure that there are things that we are offering that are more appealing. I think they want to do more contests in terms of participation. They want to have more communication. I think they all agreed to having a student lunch sort of advisory group. So they would invite some kids in to talk about the meals and lunches and what they want to see. So again, I think those are all things that they learned from some of the literature and some of the conversations they've had with Whitson's. But I just really feel now that they want to I think they've said we've learned, and we've been exposed to a new way of doing things, and we want to do it. So
Who's they that you're talking about?
The CAF managers. So Bob and I met with I think almost everybody, right?
Yeah, all six.
All six. So we met with all six CAF managers. So
And the staffing's going to allow them to be able to be doing contests and things?
Well, again, I think that's one of the reasons we felt like we needed to provide more clerical support, more full-time clerical support to take on some of those details. We felt like there was good oversight of the middle school and high school, but we wanted to have more presence at the more support of the elementary school kitchens, and they were excited, and again, they were committed to it, and forgive the pun, we said, again, there's no free lunch. So they're going to have to really make this work and be committed to it. And again, we're not going to run in the red. We have to make sure that this works. I think that they know the committee's serious because we did contract out this service. And I think, I'm not sure many of them thought that that decision would ever be made. And so I think it was I thought it was a very positive conversation. And actually, there was a positive reflection of Whitson's. It wasn't a, oh my God, you know, it was, they got to go. It was, we learned a lot, and we live in this community, we want to provide this service, is essentially what they were saying.
And again, the only thing I would like to add is, agreed. I think the conversation was great. I think we should meet more often, or I should meet more often with all 6 cafeteria managers. So I'm glad, you know, we do get some time throughout the year to put us all together in the same room. But I do just want to add, I mean, this is a projection, right? So as you all understand, I mean, we can't guarantee that 4 kids are going to buy lunch versus 10 kids. We can't guarantee what chicken's going to cost in 8 months, right? So this is the data that we have. You know, if you were to say, is this bottom line correct? We would say, I don't know, right? So we have to kind of see what that looks like. You know, the projection is unknown right now. A salary is unknown, and you asked a question, right? What is the staffing level, right? So right now we're projecting that we maintain the same staffing levels in the kitchens. We replace a full-time manager that we don't have now, and what you see in front of you is the 0.5 clerical that we currently have, right? We will take all of your advice if you all would like to see some increases, if you would like to see something, and we all realize that it costs money to do this work. So we're willing to make the work happen. We're willing to make the changes happen. And, you know, again, the decision from last week is going to put us in motion for September. And then we'll have to obviously review, which is additionally why we would want more clerical support in there, so we can be more on top of numbers to give you all the data that you're looking for. And same, we will have to obviously see how the year goes on a month-to-month basis and report back. If there are changes that are needed, staffing levels that are needed, you all will be part of that conversation.
I just want to, I appreciate what you're saying. I agree that we're going to need staff. Like, I can't imagine our current CAF managers adding on student lunch council and contests onto their current workload now, right? So I know we need a director. We probably need more clerical. I want a good software that integrates somehow with Parent Square, because I don't want another app. And I welcome all of the improved lunch ideas. I think we'll probably need to do more than 10%, just given regular food increase costs. If we want to do more food or higher quality, it's probably going to need to be more than 10%. There's runway here. So I think it can be done in this. It's $140 million window here. 1,000, yes, I'm used to the schools. So I think there's runway. I don't know exactly how much a director costs, but you've already added the 10% food increase. So I think it can be done. I think we should do it to the best of our ability, because I think it's important.
May I just add to that quickly,
Yeah.
Ms. Monaco, is I think if the committee's goal is to maximize return, then that would be a different conversation than if it's not to lose money. So I also think that sort of in addition, so there may be, if we have to increase food prices, there may be something like you're willing to say we have a positive at the end of 30,000 instead of 50,000, but that went back into buying food. And if we're projecting that all along, we should be able to see that very, very clearly, depending on.
I'll take a vote, but I think we agree that I just don't want to lose money. I don't need to make money on student lunches.
Well, again, that would be my perspective, but I'm saying I think you'll see that. I don't even think you need to take a vote. I think you'll see that moving along month to month. And I think we're going to try to do a more detailed report like Nicole provides you. Instead of just seeing the revolving account, you should see sort of more detail, because we're taking this on. I
print out the lunch and my son circles it. So I can bring it month to month and see what's getting circled. And all right. We'll see.
And I think, I'd just like to make a few comments about this whole thing. As far as I'm concerned, when the state started to pay for the lunches, that was a game changer. Because when we were doing lunches before Whitson's, there was no state paying for the lunches except free and reduced. And I've seen quite a few different cafeteria managers over the years. And it's a talent to be a really strong cafeteria manager. And I think that we should be able to find a talented person. I also think that the attitude of this committee matters, because one of the things that I think happened shortly before Whitson's came in was such a fear of losing money that, you know, people in those jobs get nervous, and they're like, well, how can I save money? How can I save money? And if we could view it a little differently and say, how can we improve the lunches, especially where the state is paying the students, and I'm thinking mostly elementary, I think the participation would go up considerably if the kids simply liked what they see as the lunches. And, you know, it made me crazy to see a grandchild having a cereal for lunch every day, because that's the only thing he liked. And I think we can do better. And I think we can have the experience that our staff has gotten, and also the experience that they've earned over the years. Over some of the employees that Whitson's had, while they were great and they meant well, some of them didn't have much experience. So even making the menus, you know, the staff that we have, they know the kids. They know which kids can't eat meat at all, and therefore more vegetarian options. They know which kids can eat certain meats, but not other meats. And all of that knowledge is really important. And I'm enthusiastic about this change because I think they're going to do a great job. I'll be disappointed if they don't. And I'll be the first one to suggest going outside again if they don't. But I expect this to work out very well, especially given the big game changer, which was the state coming in and covering the breakfast and lunch. And the most important thing is that we feed the kids and we feed them stuff they like and that's good for them. And so I'm all set with this. I'm not concerned about the budgeting. I think you did a great job putting that together and showing us the costs. We don't have the management fee to pay. And I think it's going to work out great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my comments were from a profit loss revenue perspective. It's, you know, equipping the staff with all the tools they need to be successful, right? I think we need to go in eyes wide open, meet the needs, understand what the challenges are going to be, because we are making a significant change, and that takes a lot of effort. And, you know, we want to make sure we account for that staff accordingly. I think it's also prudent for this committee to keep an eye on, while the state is picking up the tab for things now, that is not a finite amount of money, right? Or it is a finite amount of money. At some point that will run out or it'll go away. So we do need to keep an eye on, you know, controlling costs to some degree. And I think it's just, you know, fiscally responsible to do so. But, you know, I hope it's all going to work out, and I think it will. We have great staff. It's just, you know, let's make sure we give them all the tools they need to be successful right from day one, so we don't, you know, try to work from a deficit somewhere where there was a spot that was needed or a position that was needed and it just wasn't filled, right? Or we didn't identify it early on to make them successful from day one.
Through the chair, I agree with what Chris said. I'm very excited about this. I know that the cafeteria managers are thrilled. I love the idea that one of our cafeteria managers had of talking with the kids and seeing what they want to have, because there's so much waste. And I hear about it all the time, about all the food that's going in the trash because the kids don't like the food. So if we're serving the kids something they like, something they're going to eat, we are going to see an increase in participation. And, I think that we can do this. And I am very confident that we will not run into past problems. So thank you guys for all your hard work and laying all these numbers out for us. But I think that it's pretty clear that we can do this and that our cafeteria workers will do a very good job.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Again, I agree with what Chris and Jeremy and you said. I just remembered when we were trying to make this decision that I was on the fence. And I think I finally said, let's try this. And if anything, we learn from it. And from all, the statements that are being made, I feel that our cafeteria people feel very confident that they've learned, how to do things maybe a little differently and maybe a little better. And I feel that that's going to help them be more successful in taking this back over again and having pride in what they're doing. And I feel confident that they can do it. So I'm glad it's coming back.
Oh, Cheyenne?
Thank you, through the chair. I think as the Ways and Means, as far as the Ways and Means is concerned, I think if it comes down to a budgetary problem, we'll try to find whatever money we can find to make it work for you. Profit is not the goal in school lunch and breakfast. Participation is the goal, and kids getting nutritious and appealing food is what we want. So we'll get you the tools you need for that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We don't have any action to take on this, do we? Okay.
Oh, Fox Hill School Building Committee update. I don't think I have an update. We pushed the next meeting out an extra week in July because they are furiously cost estimating, I believe, as we speak or very soon. So that's where we are in Fox Hill. Do you have any internal meetings?
Yeah, I just have to keep the two projects separate. The Fox Hill is a design bid build, and so Doran Whittier is pre-qualifying or looking at companies who may bid on the project when the design goes out. So that's sort of what the process is now. And we can talk about the high school then. The high school's in a different place because they're using a different methodology. So the
high school, the Fox Hill requests for qualifications go out tomorrow, I believe.
Correct. You're right.
Yep.
So that's a big next step for us. And then again, what we'd like to see is lots of people applying and have it be a very competitive bid environment for the project.
Yes. VHS.
Yeah, so if everyone hasn't taken a look yet, there's a new design site plan out. So please go to the website and check that out. I think BCAT also published a copy of it, and it also gives a lot of factual information on, again, why we started the project and the process of what we've been doing with this project and where things will be leading in the future. So I think it's a very beneficial thing to look at. Our next meeting is this Thursday, the 26th, in this room at 6:30 p.m.
Again, also for the high school, Madam Chair, we had a meeting today regarding the CM at risk selection process. So we've gone through the qualification process, and I believe there are 6 companies that will be applying over the next 2 weeks for becoming our construction management company. That'll again, it's entering into the process at a much different stage than the than the Fox Hill project. So things that we'll be evaluating these companies on would be their staging plan and their capacity to do the work, their prior work history. And again, that is Bob, Mr. Brooks, myself, and Nicole Kasha are on the CM selection, and then we will take our ratings back to the full high school building committee, I'm assuming sometime in July.
And I know we stated it in the high school building committee meeting, but the company, one of them has a name of Bond, and it's no relation to me. And I want to make sure I state that here, so, as well.
Facilities update?
I'd like to just let everyone know that we have started summer hours across the district. What that means is we typically open the buildings from 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. during the summer. We have all of the staff in during the daytime, so the buildings are open from 7 to 5. We have also brought on additional summer help. Typically it's summer children, but it's not always just children, just additional summer help to help our custodians in the school time. And that,
Like teenagers?
Usually college or something.
yeah, it depends.
You said
Well, they have to be at least 14 or
Okay.
older, and then
Okay.
Best
depending.
job in Burlington you could ever have would be
Okay.
summer help here. I did it for 3 summers when I was in high school.
Depending on their ages, how many hours a day they could work
Okay.
per week, et cetera. So I will rephrase that to not children, but older children that are at least in the teenage era. All right. That being said, is that it is a shift for not only the custodians, but also administrators and clerical as well too, who do change their hours during the summer to get a bigger piece done in a single day. And then we will blink an eye and it will be September 1 and we will be right back to the mix. So that's it. If we can move on, or if there's questions as far as transportation goes, or.
I don't have any.
Okay. I have no new updates for transportation. I have not sent out the letter yet or the survey to parents, but that will be coming, as mentioned at our last meeting, and it also will be sent out at least a second time. I'm not sure if it'd be more than 2, but at least twice, and there will be a reminder that will go out to both of those messages as well too. And I do want to state that the intent of the survey is for any family that is willing to tell us that they do not intend to ride the bus. If your circumstances change, we will adapt to that. But if we know at the start of school that you do not plan to have your children on the bus, it'll make our routing easier, and hopefully the first 2 weeks will go slightly smoother. If we do not get a response from any parent, we will assume that your child is riding the bus. So while you don't have to respond yes that they're riding, you can respond yes they are riding.
Bobby, I want to go back to facilities. I just wanted to ask you from your perspective. Jeremy gave his report earlier on the field. I just want to know from your perspective internally, how do you see this going?
I thought it doesn't matter.
So my personal opinion is that we have conservation on Thursday this week. We will seek feedback, so we are there to present. We are not expecting a vote on Thursday night.
Right.
Any feedback that we get from conservation will come back to our next field committee meeting. I'm hoping that there's little to none, and then that will make our jobs easier on the subcommittee. So that pending, if there are no or very little changes needed, then I think we just have some details to work out. That's just my personal belief. I don't believe that there was much against the current design as is. I just think it needs to be fine-tuned to make sure that we can check all the boxes and tell the engineering company to complete the documents to go back to conservation for final approval.
So if conservation goes well, but they don't vote, so then their next meeting would be another, 2 weeks or so?
Yeah, so there's only one meeting in July, similar to school committee, and one meeting in August. So
Okay.
we will not get a vote on Thursday night. We're not slated in that category. We're just there for an update.
But so if they voted in July, then it would have to come to school committee?
So what I believe could happen is that based on the feedback from this conservation meeting this week, our subcommittee will meet, see what details there are, because we need to give a direction to the engineering firm on how they go. Once those are met, I believe we have the ability to come back to this committee and update them as to what our path is, or at least what our intentions are. As far as a final document, that's not going to be completed until we give the engineering firm the go to complete the documents and tell them what to complete. So again, I think there's a path that you all can have some information, but we need to rely on first the conversation that happens at conservation.
Okay, and then after all of that you already described, what happens is then do you go to bid?
That would be the goal. When and who, we don't know, but that would be the goal. Once we secure the documents, secure the blessing from conservation, secure the blessing from this committee, completed documents go to bid, and we hope that there's a vendor that says, I'm ready to go yesterday, and we have all the materials and we can do that, but we don't know what that window looks like yet. So again, are you asking me, will it get done this summer? No. Are you asking me, will it get done this calendar year? Unlikely that it's possible. Are you asking me, could we potentially begin some construction this year if we're get through the first conservation steps, the subcommittee, engineering document, et cetera? I think that's a possibility. So there's the possibility of maybe starting something and then maybe finishing it after the winter time, similar to what we did here at the high school.
Yeah, you can't do it in the winter.
Correct. But again, we can't put the cart before the horse, so we need to have completed conversations at conservation, follow up at the subcommittee, and then obviously get the blessing of this committee to move forward.
Yeah, I just feel bad that it didn't go more smoothly and more rapidly, given the degree to which parents really wanted to see it happen, but it didn't. So you do the best. You'll all do the best you can, I'm sure. And the latest it would get done is maybe next spring, summer.
I would say next year. Yeah, definitely. It would be the latest if we were all in agreement.
And when do you expect the front field to get done?
So that funding was just available now. We need to work with the engineer, the same exact thing, so they can build the specs and go out to bid.
Is it the same engineer?
We have not contracted that person, but I believe there's a benefit to continue to use that engineer since they've already done some investigative work and provided us with some of like the 30–40% documents already to get to this point. But that's also something that we have to consider.
So when do you think that might actually be underway, getting work beginning on it?
I would believe it'd be in a similar time frame as the backfield. Now the question is do we link them together or not? I think we have a path right now on the front field, but we don't know what the path is right now on the backfield. And I don't really know that I view that as a negative. That's just my own opinion. Maybe it isn't the ideal field that we wanted, but I think that, what we have presented now is great. And I think that if we get through the next couple of steps, my personal opinion is that, with the amount of money that we're spending on both of these fields, that we will still have an amazing complex over at the middle school.
I'm sure.
So
it'll be great.
What do they say? Shoot for the moon and you land with the stars. So I would still see the positive out of this.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering if it's likely that they're both going to be torn up at the same time.
We would try our best to not have that happen so we can continue to play on one field. So if we were to bid them together, then a recommendation that we would all have would be to stagger them. So that way we can continue to play on one. If we don't do that, then we would intentionally stagger their build to keep one in play.
And the committee had about a 20-minute discussion on that very topic last meeting.
Yeah.
If you can't, which one do you think will get done first?
Right now, I think we can move faster on the front field since it's a returf. And And again, depending on Thursday night, I may be able to give you a different answer, but at least on the front field, the parameters are more clearly defined, right? So it's easier for us to say, go on this one. Again, we're not ready to go now, but it's easier for us to say, go with the engineers, go with the.
But
right?
let's say that you got to that one in the spring, summer, does that mean that the backfield would get put off again?
Fair question. Let me think for a second. So
Well, it have to if you don't want them both torn up together.
it's a different scale of work.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I'm going to say that.
Can I finish one thought?
Yeah,
though?
you
So
finish
it's
one
a different scale of work, right? So one would be like replacing the carpet in your house, and the other one would be like ripping off the
I
second
mean, it's
floor.
faster to do the front field.
It's just a different scale of work, completely, right? So this one, the front field is focusing just on the carpet, the infill, and resurfacing the track.
Is it resurface? I thought it was like rebuilding and resurfacing.
A little bit of both, right? But on the backfield, there's electrical, there is drainage, there's a whole bunch of dirt that needs to come out. There's the nature seedings, there's the new walkways that are being paved. So just the scale alone is different.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's likely that the front field will get done first and the backfield will get delayed again in order to get the front.
Well, I just want to give you a counter perspective because Bob and I go back and forth I actually think the backfield should be done and will be done as soon as possible. I think I heard, and I mostly just listen because there's folks who know much more details about this, but I heard a lot more consensus, I would say, the last conversation we had. So I would say that's a positive. And so I think that's going to move forward. I don't look at this again, maybe through the same lens as everyone else. The brush field, so the existing turf field, I still think has a year or two while the safety testing would still pass. And I think that would really maximize the use of that field. And so I think it's just, I don't know, I can't make a better financial argument because they're all.
Field.
It's a paving and spacing problem.
Pacing and spacing. We'll know
It's
more.
copyrighted by Frank Monaco.
No more in.
But I'm saying, so
week
Bob
and
and I
2 weeks, and yeah.
may differ on that, but I'd like to take that brush field as long as we can until we start to have failure and.
So then you could get the backfield
And
done.
get the
and then-
backfield done.
Material to
and then-
allow us to do that. Ideally, the goal is to break ground as soon as we can, because right now, the field isn't usable until the June timeframe in the back anyway, right? So if we're teed up first thing, after the first thaw, we're starting construction, we can potentially do the projects in serial work, completing one, beginning the other, and everything's just flows through and it just becomes one long construction project with 2 phases.
Yeah, well, my concern stems from the fact that this is a school committee warrant article and I really want to stay on top of understanding what's happening with it.
We will continue to provide updates to the committee.
But thank you for all that input.
We'll know more next week.
You finished transportation?
Yes.
Okay. An update on the building committee.
Oh, yeah, just on the high school meeting, it's a virtual meeting, not in here. However, I think as last time, a couple people requested us to be here. So if that's the case, then I guess we're going to also show up, but it's virtual now.
The
high school.
The in-between high school, remember they added the off-cycle high school building committee meeting?
There's one Thursday.
Virtual only.
One Thursday is a virtual.
It's virtual only.
All
yes.
virtual.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Good, because I was going to be
Virtual,
here in
correct.
person.
100% virtual.
6:30 still?
Same time.
Yeah, and I have it on my WebEx, but I think last time it wasn't abundantly clear, so I think we asked that they make sure everyone knows.
The website says virtual.
Yeah. Yeah, it says in the invite, these meetings are remote.
And it gives the link.
Yeah.
On the website.
Perfect. Any new or old business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, meeting adjourned.